Only thing I see is the item 9, the next meeting date is wrong.
The room number's wrong,
That's
Yeah,
what I
that
think.
whole
Yeah,
thing
that'd
is
be
wrong.
bad, yeah.
That whole thing's wrong.
And the date and the place.
Yeah.
So it should read the 20th, and it should read Town Hall, room 27.
No, it is September 6th. This is the August 30th minutes. The next meeting after that was September 6th, because we needed to do the minutes. And we did meet in 3:20.
Oh, yeah, this is August 30th.
This is,
Oh, okay.
this is the
You're
August
right.
30th meetings.
You're absolutely right.
I wrote that we accept.
Well,
Okay.
Under new business for discussion of town meeting vote, take a look at the motion. It reads, there were no amounts included in the funding sources were questioned. I think we need to insert the words articles and. So it reads, there were no amounts included in the articles and funding sources were in question. I think we need to insert the words
And
articles and in order to make that make sense.
Okay.
I'm sorry, son. Where was that again? Tim?
Read it.
No amounts
The motion.
included in the funding sources.
Yeah.
And the funding sources.
So
Yeah,
there were no
articles.
amounts in the article and, insert the words articles and. And I had one more change, when you're ready.
Hmm?
Okay,
Under the adjournment, Donna moved to adjourn. It has Commissioner moved to adjourn, we need to add Donna's name to that.
Yeah.
gotcha.
Oh, my pen just ran out.
Okay,
You have one? Oh, yeah, in your pocket.
Out of my pocket, plus I always bring some piece of.
No,
But,
it's working.
is she gonna make the changes?
You can make them here. and
I'll make
vote
them
in,
on the
and
one
then
that I signed.
Okay, all right, okay.
This is
So,
that's what's gonna be.
right now I make a motion to accept the minutes of the August 30th meeting.
As modified.
As
With
mod-
those changes.
as modified.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, 466. Okay, citizens' participation, somebody shows, we'll let them up, they're not here, so go to our abatements. We have 6 of them, starting with 259 High Street. Oh,
No,
259 High Street, huh?
259 High Street.
Oh, I have.
Because I thought we had 3013 on my first.
That's not, the first one is 259 High Street.
Okay, yep, no, yeah, you're right.
A
On the
total
list.
of $596. And it is recommended.
I'll make a motion, we accept the abatement for account 737975.
All in favor?
Oh, who seconded?
Second.
Second? Peter, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passed. The next one is 3013.
If I read this correctly, because the water was turned,
Red?
the water was turned off November 29th, so as of 11/29/18, it will be a year. My recommendation is we table this until a December meeting in which they will be off for a full year.
It goes by the date of the application, so tabling is not gonna change any of the dates. So this is a pretty unique case. The conflict was that when the lease was active, and some reason, when the Hub 99 left their facility, there was no communication. Bills were sent, they never got copies of it. There was a break in the water, it was a total mess. The water was put off and put right back on. The water is presently on. So there's all kinds of problems here. So Mrs. Caradinas, I think she's 90 years old, said she was going to be here tonight. That's why I was concerned about starting early, but I think we're well within.
But your
the
note
numbers, so-
says, however, it has not been off for a year as required.
That's right.
It doesn't say anything about the application being done a year ago.
No, the application, the date of the application is, if you look at the application date, hopefully it's here.
I don't see it.
The application date.
Was received August 28th, 2018, but
That's right.
your cover letter, however, it has not been off for a year as required.
Right, so she had applied, in other words, if she had gone on the building cycle and applied again, she'd have met the requirements. So it's kind of.
And there's nothing in here that says the application has to be a year old. Am I missing something?
Yeah, there's an application, so at the end of a
No,
building
but
cycle.
look at your cover letter.
It's a standard cover letter, if you think we should put in there.
No, it has not been turned off for a year as required.
That's right, it hasn't been.
But it says the water was turned off in November 2017. That's a year ago. Am I missing?
Is it November 29th, 2018?
No,
So
November
it doesn't make a
29th.
year. So the date of the application of this thing is previous, so up to your point, you're saying let's table it and wait to let it season and then we'll come back at it.
Well-
Should have to reapply. And I don't think she can, does that make sense?
Sorry, if it said, the law, what we say is the water has to be off for a year before we can rebate. Is there anything that says we have to have the application in a year before we can rebate? What
It's on
is?
the back of the bill, I don't have a copy.
No, I'm asking the rest of the sewer commissioners, how do you, how do you
What's
take
your
it?
question?
Does the water have to be the water off for a year to get a rebate, or does the application have to be a year old before they can get a rebate?
No, the application doesn't have to be a year old, but the water has to be.
So this water was turned off November 29th, 2017. If we table this until a December meeting, it will have been off for a year. Am I reading this wrong?
That's the way
Well, no, what you're saying is true.
I agree. Why make her go through, jump out through a hoop guy? I'm just curious. Why can't we just table it?
There's an application comes in, I have to answer the application. What the board does is nothing to do with me.
There you
There's
go.
an application made. Once the application is made, we answer the application. The date, because I have to go by simple, so once it comes in, we make a determination, we can't do anything, we go from there. So,
Okay.
again, as I explained to one of the nephews, is that there's a policy. I can't address that. However, it's something the board has to do or they can do, so that's why we brought it here. So you do it. It's the board's decision, it's not mine. We've never, ever.
Policy says it has to be off for a year.
So if they turn the water off November 29th, 2017,
I agree with that,
and we table in December,
but
So
do
then
we
we'll
have a
table-
policy
Yes, we
about
do.
the application?
So, but she says that we table all of them and give them all a year and then debate them.
no.
Well,
No, only if the water's been shut off.
Huh.
So so what's the criteria, so we're gonna allow it to be a year, so if somebody applies in 7 months, we're gonna let them wait for 5 months? What's the
No,
cutoff?
this is a month away.
It
month
wasn't
and
in
a half.
August.
Month and a
It
half.
wasn't in August, but I just,
Okay.
this has been going on for a while. I've talked to a
okay,
few
so
people, so I don't know, however the board wants to do it.
If we go on your recommendation and do not offer the rebate, when can they come back and file a request for a rebate again? December?
Listen, so there's two things. They can do it again in December, I have a problem with that. There's two issues. First of all, the big issue is turning the account, putting the account on hold. Now, I want to be clear, if the water is off, and there's no water set up by the water department, as it says here, the water department says, please advise the water service to the property located at 30, was turned off in November 29th, 2017. I believe it was turned back on at some point in time, but I can't verify that because I don't have the records in front of me. I just go by with what I had in front
Well,
of me
can
when I talk to the owner. So you can do.
Can we table this until
I
you
have a
can
problem with it.
confirm when the water was turned back on?
I don't have a problem with that. Whatever you want to do. This is a unique situation, and that's why I brought it to the sewer commissioners. There's a miscommunication between the tenant and the owners, major miscommunication. What they're saying is there's some bills that have been, that, I think they're still pending. I don't even know if they've been paid, which totals quite a
No,
sum of money.
this is $13,000.
Yes, quite a sum of money, and I think it's still outstanding, and the problem is if it's not cleared up, then there's fees that we cannot abate, and all that has to be cleared. And so, again, there's a policy that says to be up here, there's a period of applying. Whatever the board chooses to do, you guys are policy setters, policy makers, you set policies, do what you choose to do.
Mr. Chairman,
Nothing to do with me.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to see, I would like to do the right thing here. And I do believe the right thing is to wait for the year and give them their rebate. I think, you know,
Plus a confirmation
So
that the water was,
So are you making a
Once
motion
we-
that we table this?
as long as it's confirmed, as long as it's confirmed
that the water had,
that the water hadn't been turned back on or
Are you
anything.
making a motion that we table
Yes, I
this
am.
for further confirmation?
Yes, I am.
second.
All in favor? This motion right now.
I'd like to hear from the party before we table it.
That's not a bad idea. I'll withdraw my motion.
And I withdraw my second.
Oh.
Okay.
Come,
You're on stage.
I don't hear too well, that's good.
Okay,
Yeah,
do
well,
it.
to my, the 99, the lease was up, and I guess we assume they must.
Either
You're
one.
gonna have to come up because this is trying to be recorded.
My cousin Bobby knows better than I do.
Here, you-
The lease was up, and I guess we weren't getting any water bills, the bills weren't coming to us. And I think Bobby just went and checked the building, and he noticed something with some meter or something, I don't know, he noticed something, then he noticed, I guess, the water was on or something. I'm not sure exactly when it was, but I guess he got it turned off. And, we owed all that money, we didn't know what it owed, because we weren't getting any bills. And then,
So,
we didn't know that we were.
is the water on or off now?
It's been off, yeah, it's been off, according to my cousin.
We've never used it.
It was never used.
So if we go to the water department, they've confirmed that it was never turned back on after November 29th, 2017.
That should be what the finding is.
Okay.
Yeah.
We just didn't know. If we had known, and it was empty, so it wasn't like there was.
Oh, so you guys are the ones responsible for flooding the street.
That's a sore subject.
I know.
Can I put it on the record?
Yeah, you're on TV.
That's a sad situation.
But you should see Nielsen ratings.
It's not, gosh, if you guys would kind of forgive that would be.
What?
Now you make that motion, I'll second this.
Would you just
Just forgive her, whatever you're gonna do with it,
No.
that'd be great.
we have to, we have to do what's right. And
Well,
I believe,
I think we're right back
Right.
to your original
yes,
motion.
I am going to, I move that we table this until it's confirmed by the superintendent if the water had been turned back on or off. And we'll revisit it
In December.
in December.
Oh, so in the meantime,
Second.
what happens?
Because that has to be for a year, that the water's off before we can give you the rebate.
Okay, we're gonna do anything in the meantime,
No,
Please don't.
just don't turn on the water.
Please don't.
Don't turn on.
We don't turn on the water, and I think I talked to a gentleman, and there's a conflict of water, because I think you have system in there, and so I've gotta confirm that. If I remember the story, 'cause we had a long conversation with some gentleman, and the water was on, then it was off, it was on, then it was off, and what he was contending is because they weren't notified that they shouldn't be responsible for the bill. And I said that's between the tenant and the landlord, so I didn't want to get involved in that. And I also said to him, I'm afraid of setting precedent and all that good stuff, so that's why it's here. So I'll confirm all this, I'll get a copy of the letter, there's an actual written letter about the whole thing. I'll get a copy of that letter, I'm surprised it's not included, but the lady doing this now is new.
Are you Mr. Campina?
Yes, I am.
I think I emailed you that letter.
There's so there's a lot to this, and the board doesn't have that, so we'll get all that together. We'll confirm everything with the water district, what the board is saying, we'll table it until we get all the information from the water district, because there's a lot of conflict here, and it becomes an issue of a tenant and a leasee problem, and, it puts you in a very bad position. They should have notified you, they didn't do that, and again, there's policies I don't wanna get into.
As it sits right now, if we were to act on this tonight, then we would, the recommendation is not to approve the abatement. If we accept the motion that's being made is that we table this until December to get the rest of the information to back it up. And if it backs up everything that's being said, then we'll probably get the baby then.
Okay,
I can live with that. For 3 months.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I just have a question about the water quality. We have really good water quality here, don't we?
I'm sorry?
We have some of the best water quality in the state, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, we do. We're doing a plan to continue the settables in the water. We have a lot of manganese, a lot of copper and things of that sort. We've had some bacteria hits, but doing a great job, so they're building a $12 million treatment plant to make it a lot better and safer for everybody to drink. And it's doing the same thing. At one time, Wareham had the best water in the entire region, but generally speaking, as we lower the water table, we have all kinds of issues with water throughout the country, so they're doing the right thing to make sure it remains pristine, take out the things that are bothering us.
You said manganese?
Manganese and
They're heavy metal, right?
heavy metal, absolutely. You gotta remove
Is
it.
it a carcinogen?
It's not carcinogen, it's not a carcinogen, it's just a heavy metal. It plays with the quality of the hardness and color of the water, that type of thing. You'll see a lot of discoloration in the water. Some areas worse than others. Sometimes when they flush or whatever, you'll see it more noticeable. So they decided that to make it what it needs to be, they're gonna build this water treatment facility, and they're gonna take all that out, and so the water will go back to a higher.
And we will be
quality.
paying a higher water bill,
Oh, you will be.
Much higher.
much higher. They've broken ground,
Our water's
they've
off.
started to break, the ground has been broken, so it's started.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Guess should we go? We're done, right?
You're done, then
We're all
we
set.
can.
Otherwise,
Thank
we're
you.
just nosy.
You can sit and, you're welcome to sit, it's a public meeting.
And this is a very
What are you
popular
gonna
thing that
talk
everybody, hell no.
Other abatements.
Oh, okay, never mind. Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you. Thank you very much. Sorry we were late. My
No
fault.
problem.
No, wait, no problem.
Not a problem.
My fault. It's always my fault.
Donna, back to your motion.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So, we'll wait until December and guys report on water.
Right.
Also, I'll read the policy on the back of the bill because there's some very definitive dates. Very definitive dates and timeframes. I may go out of
Bill is
this,
hold.
I may change all of this in December. Just
6
so you know.
Glen Avenue.
Why the 3 different numbers?
I don't know. What numbers are you talking about?
His,
Well,
his,
the total sewer bill, the rebate requested, and the rebate recommended.
Which one are we on?
269.15 requested, and you're suggesting 248.33.
What we do is the time of the month, the time of the year. So what happens is a billing period of 6 months. And so if you go one day into a month, you pay for the whole month, and so their calculations, our calculations may not be the same. But they request doesn't mean that's what you're gonna get. And also, if they request less and they tell them more, we give them more. So we just actually calculate and give them what the number really turns out to be.
So 248 is the correct amount?
That's correct.
I make a motion rebate 738,900 for $248.33.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Approved.
Aye.
3 Longwood Avenue. About $149.
This is another unique case. The property was split without our knowledge. It used to be one property, one bill. The town split the property, so there's 2 owners. So we have to abate them $149, and the balance bill the person that didn't get the bill, that should have got the bill. So it's kind of a mess.
So it's just a transfer.
Yeah, so he paid it all.
So we can't do, we abate one guy and charge the other.
And charge the
guy,
other
so
guys for
We
it.
don't lose anything.
Just to
It's
make it, yeah.
It's just a
because
wash.
They split the property.
Yep, just a wash. Got it.
It's really a crazy deal.
A motion?
I make a motion rebate account 735498 for $149.
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's, takes care of that. 3 Sherman Street. First Avenue. In the amount of $298 for the first half of fiscal year 2019.
So, Mr., you can see on the HUD, that's what it is. He asked for a lot more, but you can see on the HUD statement, he was actually given the money. And so, as we reviewed this, and went through all the bills and the statements, we are giving him back the abatement of $298 and not the $623 that he's asking for. He brought a foreclosure, and the bank gave him credit for the bill, $230 of the bill, and so he wanted us to abate that also.
Oh,
And we're not gonna do it, so.
No?
That's, that's what you can see on the HUD, there's a $333 credit for the bill.
I make a motion that we,
Sorry, it says the outstanding utility billing was $313.30. The final water sewer bill was $551.85.
What was credited? I thought it was three something credited.
in the HUD statement.
$313.30 was outstanding utility billing to the town of Wareham tax collector.
Mhm.
The final water sewer bill was $151.85.
The tax collector, the sewer, as I understand it, it was actually a tax lien, a tax attachment of unpaid sewer bill. Because when you don't pay the sewer bill, they put it on the taxes, it becomes a tax lien. And so that was all credited to him at the closing. So it's, and this was all done through the treasurer, no, I'm sorry, the assessor's office with me, and the numbers made sense to me, and I'm not gonna pay everything, especially when he's got some. And she conferred with Fiona in terms of what was going on. And they
I
agreed
make
to
a
the numbers.
motion, we grant the abatement of $298 on account 739647.
Second.
All in favor?
Yeah, I,
And
Mm,
152 Swift Street Road. Abatement request be denied.
No, we can't, our policies, I recommend we deny this. Account number 739583, as it does, the date doesn't meet the one-year policy.
no, she doesn't meet the time. And
Does it mean she'll reapply, have her reapply in
I
February?
don't know, we're gonna have to
I
discuss
just gotta
that.
tell you, there's
We
a
might be opening a
specific
can of worms there.
billing on the back of their bill. And to keep tabling these to allow abatements is going to get us in a whole world of hurt. We're setting some
I mean,
bad
if-
precedent,
if-
we're going down a bad road here.
If we wait a year to do it, because the water's been off, they still use the sewer.
How? If they
Well,
don't have
if
water?
they're using it from the time we're waiting.
No,
Why?
so once the issue is, first of all, I gotta verify it's not on, it's not off. But the issue is that there's a specific time frame. First of all, you gotta abate the bill so many days after the bill. Once you, and that's the only time you can apply. So she's applied, that's the date, it stops. So you table this to December, and it violates the policy, she has to reapply. We can't table this and move it on, because it's all specific dates. And you gotta read the back of the bill. The policy says you got so long to apply. That's why the date on the application is the date we go by. When we get that date, no ma'am, you do not qualify. It's a dead issue. Now, she's gonna get no more bills. So the $13,000 she owes, she's gonna say, well, I'll tell you what, I'll wait a year and reapply for an abatement. And that's, we're setting that precedent.
A year ago from today, the water was on and she was using the sewer. Okay, in January, she's turned it off and stopped using it. Who gets paid, who pays for those months? September to January.
Absolutely.
You just gotta be careful. You know, I agree with doing the right thing, but the right thing's a policy. We need to work on the
Well, we
policy.
see, I guess I need to see the back of the water bill.
Mhm.
Of
The
sewer
bill.
bill.
It's on the back of your sewer bill.
Who pays for
Just,
last September to January? The water was on, the sewer was being used.
okay, and we prorate,
No. It's, the policy says the water has to be off for a year.
okay,
If you want to change the policy, we'll have to change the policy.
but, okay,
So she,
there's a policy, and is the policy the back of the sewer bill?
yes, ma'am.
We don't have a policy any other place, other than the back of the sewer bill.
It's
Policy
in your
is-
folder.
It's in the policy.
It's in your
Is it-
policies, yes. I don't have my policy book with me. But
I
the
don't
thick
have the
book-
strength to carry it.
Me neither. So there's a policy.
Okay.
And so I just don't want to go down a slippery slope.
I couldn't agree more.
I second your motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
4-0-0. That's approved. That's denying the request.
That's the last meeting, right?
Okay, now we have got some agreements to look at. Okay, this is the grant agreement on water warriors,
Do we have new numbers?
but we haven't received any of the numbers yet. At least I haven't.
So let me talk about the water arrays. I got a call from Mr. Sullivan, said that that you requested we pull it. It's been pulled.
That's
and-
interesting.
Okay, and that's the statement, and he said they're not gonna fund it, that it's being pulled, that we could do it again in the spring. And I was getting hammered by the Mass CEC. I told him my conversation, and so they're gonna pull the grant. And so, and I said to Derek, and we had, because he said, I don't wanna break your heart, guy, but we're pulling it. Mr. Chairman came in, we talked about it, he said it should be pulled, we can't finance it, whatever the reason was, I'm not gonna get into that. And I said, okay, Derek, I said, you're not breaking my heart, it is what it is, because I'm gonna pull it. At the same time, he said we're gonna pull the other ones because they're gonna pull it, they're gonna do a transfer for the Vactron and a transfer for the trailer, so we don't need to put that in articles, so we pull in articles. So we had no articles, everything's been pulled, and we agreed to pull the,
I think the
Yeah, I
word
think so.
pulling is causing the confusion.
so however you wanna do it. So I called CEC and told them that we're not gonna fund it, because what Derek was saying, we're not gonna fund it, our portion. So because our portion is not gonna be funded, then we can't do the grant, so the grant's been pulled.
I don't understand how Derek can do that, can pull it.
And he's the procurement officer, and he said he did it under the.
But it was placed on the warrant. So nothing could be pulled, it's on the warrant. We can't, it's been placed on the warrant.
We have placeholders.
No, we filled and sent over valid articles after our meeting on September 6th. We voted on our articles. They went over on Tuesday, the following Tuesday, as valid articles, not placeholders. We pulled this, we did not submit
That's what
the
it said.
screw article, so we only sent 3 articles to Board of Selectmen's office for inclusion in the warrant. 2 of them are now included under the capital plan that Mr. Sullivan will be submitting, so they're not separate articles. They're included under his numbers. The one for the water warriors was submitted and placed on the warrant by the selectmen. So it's on the warrant. It can't be pulled anymore because that warrant is finalized and published. Then all of a sudden there's, well, we hear that the selectmen will not, not support it. They will not vote favorably for it. Heard that the chairman of the sewer department does not support it either. And I'm saying, how can that be? The sewer commissioners haven't heard what the final numbers are, so we don't know whether or not we can and cannot support it, but it's on the
Exactly.
warrant. So, and just because some selectmen said it wasn't going to be supported, they voted on it Tuesday night, so how did they know prior to that that it was not going to be supported by the selectmen? All we are waiting for is final numbers, and we hadn't seen them.
That's right, we didn't receive any final numbers.
So to me,
And
Did you?
Right.
the pulling of it, or whatever terminology you want to use, the non-support of it, came from Derek. And I haven't been
I don't know how he can say that when the selectmen, who are the ones that say favorable yes or no, didn't do it until Tuesday night. So were the selectmen violating open meeting laws by having a discussion ahead of time? I
have
don't
no
know.
idea.
That's
I wasn't-
annoying.
I wasn't part of anything that, like that, so I have no idea.
Mr. Chairman,
I don't know where they were.
Did you, I'm asking you, Mr. Chairman, did you tell Derek that you did not support it?
Yeah.
But that's you, that's not
That's
the
That's me,
not-
that's
but
me,
you-
that's me,
but-
period. Me
That's right, but you
only.
can't,
I
you don't have a
wasn't
right to
made-
speak for the whole
I
board.
wasn't speaking for the whole board.
Then why were
I-
you speaking to him in the, I mean,
I was there for something else altogether.
this is bullshit, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have used a bad word, but I'm sorry. This is wrong. We are a board of 5 people, and one person should not be making the decisions for all of us.
I don't know that one person is.
Well-
I'm not the one that's making the decision for all of us. I made my own decision on my basis when he asked me about it, for me. I
guess
said-
it didn't come
I
out
said,
that
"It's
way."
me only."
Guess it didn't come out that way.
Well, I'm sorry it didn't, because that's the way it was. I mean, I
Because
was not
we
speaking.
never got a chance to see
I
the
was not
numbers.
speaking for the board because we never received the information that we were looking for. And I
You
said,
shouldn't
"That's
have-
why I-"
you
and I-
shouldn't have-
And I said to
you
him,
should not have
I
spoken
said
as
to
a
him at
source.
that
Stop,
time,
stop, stop.
What?
I said to him at that time that we didn't have the information, I didn't have the information, I wasn't supporting it.
And we really have until October 23rd or whatever that is, and that's a month away, and
That's
we
right.
should not have lost this grant.
Now, have we lost the grant already?
That's gone.
Isn't that special? Isn't that really special?
I can call the grant people, see if I can reinstate it, I doubt it.
You can, and just say that it, you know,
If there's a mistake or something, I'll do whatever I can. But they've been hammering for a month and a half, because there's only so much money, and we're one of the grantees. And other people were denied, and so they kept hammering, what are you doing, because the funding. And so he finally called me and said, hey, I need an answer. Derek made some requests for I sent him all the data to give to the selectmen, and then.
But we don't have it.
So we don't
We
have.
have he has the same, the numbers, everything he had is about the project, not the final numbers, but what it was all about, because they didn't even know. So anyways,
this
he
is the
said to
reason there
me-
shouldn't be sewer commissioners, because they don't listen to them. They
And-
listen to one person,
And-
opinion, and they make a
Well,
decision like that.
Somehow, in a Board of Selectmen's meeting, I heard them say the town could be on the hook for over $600,000 if this goes through, and I'm saying, where did they
Where'd they
come
get
up
the
with
numbers?
that
I
number?
don't know.
I have no idea so if
We
you,
never had that number.
no,
The numbers never, we're on the hook for $243,000 maximum, and we had that number was presented. And also,
but in the documentation we had a couple of meetings ago, the 600,000 was on the table, not
the
240.
$600,000 was the total cost.
But
And
that's,
it was broken down.
I'm gonna find the document.
And for furthermore, what really troubled me is I read the paper and it said it was Warriors, which was a funding of veterans who needed wastewater jobs. I don't know where that came from.
I don't know where that came from. Pete
So
just showed me that.
There's just so much misinformation and confusion.
Senator,
But for me, the town administrator, who's a procurement officer, said to me that it's pulled.
I
Yeah,
would like to
yeah,
see a
so
letter
I-
going to the town administrator stating that one person's opinion is not a valid reason to take something off the thing. We have a democracy here, we have the right to vote, and he has the right to oppose it, but he doesn't have the right to speak for us. And I'm not saying that you did,
No, no, but-
I'm just saying that,
but he didn't necessarily oppose it. He said he opposed it until we see some numbers.
We have to be very careful with what we say.
Anything that is in question is either a board support or not a board support.
Not one person.
Even if you
Two persons.
disagree with something,
Exactly.
the
Okay.
board agrees, so as a board, they agree because you're part of the board.
Exactly.
But you have a right to express your opinion that, you know what, I don't agree with it, and the board votes, and whatever the board wants
Exactly.
is what happens.
And that's
The
a-
contract that
That's
we were
important.
given, the last page says, grantee cost share, $696,000, that's what the selectmen saw.
I have no idea. This is,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, that's what you gave us a couple meetings ago, that's
this
six.
was the actual, this was the.
Yeah, so that's what we were looking at, that's what the selectmen got, that's where they came up with
That's
this.
right, so you, okay, so
So
that
we
number
wanted
is
new ones.
correct, and that was broken down to, because remember, on this, there's
But we don't
in-kind
have
service.
anything else, we have
Should've
nothing
been.
else.
I'm sorry. I
This
don't know
was
how
in a
this-
meeting you missed, and we asked
I don't
that
know
in
how this
the,
got there.
Well,
the
well,
September
Well,
9th
let me ask a
meeting.
question.
We, I think,
If we went ahead with Water Warriors and didn't get the grant, would we be on the hook for 600?
we'd be on the hook for, I'd have to do the numbers, it's
240
243
plus 80.
plus
No, 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 if we
83.
did not get the grant.
326,
Grant, the grant was
243
80.
plus 83.
326.
So where's the 600 number
The
coming?
total
It's
cost.
the total cost, and so what happens is you get the total cost of a project, and they break all the numbers out, and so the
And we
total
never
cost
got
has
the,
to be.
and that was the problem, we never got the breakout. If we don't get the grant, it's 240 plus the 83 we didn't
breakout
get.
Was presented at the meeting that the Warriors themselves presented. It's in your meeting
But
minutes,
we
it's in
changed,
your.
but we changed
We
the scope
changed
of
the,
it.
we changed the,
The
we
scope of
added
the project got
32,
changed from
we
what
added
the originals.
$28,000 to our original cost. And we talked about that. I know I talked about it with Mr. Chairman at length. The $28,000 was added to the total cost, and so it became 242 or 243. That became our total. And we had
So
that
I have to
discussion, so
go
it was all
back to a
presented to us.
March meeting to find that number.
Mhm. I'm just saying we had, I'm not saying what we should, could, or would have. What I'm saying is the numbers have been presented. So I apologize for not getting the numbers in the meeting I missed, and I have to be clearer on the presentation of this material because everything should be
Yeah,
included as
because
backup,
what,
everything.
what the selectmen saw,
Yeah,
that $600,000, and that's why they all say
sure.
no to the project. They did not vote favorable. But just because the selectmen is not in favor for an article, doesn't mean it will be defeated on the floor.
Right.
If you say to them, this project will save you electricity and will reduce the smell, I think that would go over very well, but,
Yes, and so when I got the call from the town administrator, it was very clear. And he didn't say that the board, he just said that the chairman was not supported. Now, if he interpreted that to be the board, that's not anything to do with me, but he said, so it's not going to go forward. And I said, Derek, I've learned, it is what it is. I am
Well,
not, because he was afraid of me getting upset, because I get upset about most things, and I said, it is what it is. Whatever the board wants, it is what it is. It had merits, and I was trying to argue the merits of the program.
Can we reopen the grant?
I'll find out. I'll call Mike in the morning.
but we still have not seen numbers to say whether or not we support
The
the
grant.
project, the
We're
project.
going forward,
The
right? Yeah.
Grant or not, the project, because
Exactly.
we haven't, I have my minutes from when Water Warriors came for us as a grant, and I see nothing in here that talks about the breakdown.
Well, they presented the breakdown, because they presented exact costs.
They may have presented it, but it wasn't
I took
included
it out
in,
of my, I'm
it
sorry.
wasn't included in the,
I don't have an
packet.
old book.
Okay,
I broke the book down, it got too big to carry, and so it's in my other,
But-
it's in my other book, so this is all new stuff.
can you go back to that document and at the next meeting,
Okay.
provide us with a backup that came out of the Water Warrior, discussion?
I forget the actual date, but it was quite a while ago.
Matter of fact, I think it was one of the meetings I sat in before I was elected, was
This
what?
was this
Yeah. But I don't remember numbers for a project that came back a second time when I was a sewer commissioner. I just can't find the minutes
So we
for
have
it.
numbers, so I'll break up the numbers, and I'll show you in the comparison of what, because of the reduction of the grant. And remember, the first presentation was the basins and the aeration basin and the EQ basin, and then we've come so far with EQ basin, we pulled that out because we
Yes,
didn't want
right,
to play
so
with
we
it.
modified,
That's right.
This wasn't it?
And so that's when we started saying, well, we can't do all of that.
Where'd you find it?
In my paper,
In your papers?
or don't ask me where.
I mean, look at all those
Even
papers.
even if I have it, it's not, yeah, the most of them are in order.
That was 37. This is the original, yes, it was cost sharing.
Okay?
So
Good
cost
for
sharing,
something, once in a while.
cost sharing at the time to us was 100,000 for MS CEE. Cost sharing to us at that time was 240,000.
Because at the last
And then-
meeting, when I came in late, you were
In-kind
spouting a whole
services.
bunch of numbers, and we asked, when I came in late at the last meeting.
Yeah, but we weren't, that wasn't to do with that.
We went over the warrant numbers last time at the meeting.
At the last meeting that I was late on,
We went over
yes.
the numbers, We
So-
went- we went over the numbers.
I don't say that, Guy, you're gonna check with Mass CEC, so it's
Mhm.
still available for us, and
We'll
you're
do
gonna
that
give us
first
the
thing in the morning.
breakdown of the numbers for the next meeting.
Maybe you're expecting that.
Yeah, it's all in here, you know, you should broke it all down. This is, I think this is the original
Yeah,
presentation.
it is.
It is, I've got it right here too, but I don't see any numbers.
Presentation.
Yeah, there's numbers.
There's a bunch, in the back.
In the back, the numbers are. No, you don't have the original one, that's not a thick one. I don't think so.
Is there a date on it, Jimmy, on the front?
Of course
Was-
not. January 18th.
January 2018, same one. So if you go to the back page, cost of proposed technologies,
Let's go right there.
cost justification and discussion. This is what they presented.
Cost savings.
Okay. So I'll get the.
Oh, there we go.
You got it?
I'll get the
You see it?
numbers. So I think, if I remember what the hangup was, is the electrical cost, we went
Okay.
over it and over it and over it. So-
Oh, look at it.
But anyways, I will call Mass CEC in the morning, I'll talk to Michael, see if there's anything I can do.
So, bottom line, it's on the warrant.
Okay. So if it's on the warrant,
Then we can.
we can still present it, and, you know, the pros and the cons. I mean, you're against it, you present the
Well,
cons, and if I'm
I've
for it or
been- I've
whatever.
been against it because I haven't had the numbers.
And we can
And
say
these-
that the selectmen didn't have the numbers either, when they did not.
They're not
What are
accurate.
those that we
Yeah,
have?
but
Yeah,
these
because we
did.
pulled out,
Well, that
the.
wasn't in
But we
that.
changed them from this
these
project.
numbers
we
changed
them.
on.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they did.
They've changed,
Because
that's what I said, and we were
this
supposed to
was
have
reduced
the numbers
the scope.
before this meeting, and we didn't get them.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
and because it changed, our commitment went up.
They went up 20,000, theirs went up 33, so. Because
Okay,
because it's in kind, so.
okay.
Okay, so this one goes on hold till the next meeting again. Do you have a motion on that?
Do you need a motion?
We need a motion to table it because we don't have the numbers.
I make a motion to table the Mass CEC grant request until next meeting, when we will have breakout of the numbers and confirmation that the grant is still valid.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Pass, 4-0-0. And we have Granicus website creation.
Okey dokey, you ready for my questions?
I don't know.
The contract, oh,
Go ahead.
the contract says it started on 8/1, have we lost a month?
We have to have a start date. We actually did it earlier, but till the processes,
So we haven't been billed for the month that we,
no, we have
okay. It says there's a citizen's participation comments limited to comments on the agenda. Where does the agenda come from? Who posts it?
not. We post the agenda for the meetings.
No, to this company. It says that citizens' participation comments will be limited to, the citizens' participation will be limited to the comments on the agenda. That is in their scope of work. Which means they must have an agenda and the citizens are only to comment against that.
Well, I'm looking at, you're saying the scope of work, I'm looking at Article 1, the contractor shall furnish all of the material and services called, but does it,
Not this year.
No, please look at Exhibit A.
oh, Exhibit A.
Yep.
That's where the work is defined.
Citizen participation suite, there's a suite in there. And that means that you can go in the suite, you can type in the comment question, you can do all the comments you want, but you can't go forever, there's a limited amount. So the citizen participation suite, the whole idea is it's an interactive portal. So you can go on that portal, you gotta enter your name, your email, and whatever it is, and you enter it, and you comment on anything that's on there. We've got, so that's what the citizen participation is. It's you as a citizen, we're buying a service, it's a portal. You, the citizen, can participate. You can get on there, you can comment, you can ask questions, do anything you want. That's a citizen's portal, citizen participation suite. That's what it is.
well,
But it does say agenderized
So what's,
items.
so what's on there, if you look on the street, if you go, I don't know if you go to but you can go on Granicus, we post our agendas on there, but nonetheless, we have we've got pictures of sewer, we've got pictures of what not to flush, all that's there, so these are all agenda items we post. You can go on any one of those items and comment. So it's a portal.
Yeah, using an online form tied to your upcoming meeting agenda.
Well, we have meeting agendas, it's on there. But there's also many other things. The agenda is our entire program. We
Okay,
do a lot
just-
of things on it.
Why I read this, it was only limited to what was on the agenda, because I read this, this participation suite.
We decide the agenda. Anything we put on there is our agenda. We
Okay,
decide.
so the agenda here is not the published agenda.
No, anything-
Okay, so the word agenda is not the agenda for an upcoming meeting. It can be any topic.
Any topic. but
Okay, so it was very misleading when I saw the word agenda.
Jimmy,
Did I misunderstand?
I think,
Exhibit A page.
I think if we go to, I
I'm
should-
sorry, I got another conversation.
I should,
Gonna have
Was there something
The web
else,
training?
Peter, that,
Yeah, well, go ahead, when you
Okay.
get your answer.
the word agenda bothered me, so it is not specific to a posted agenda. It could be any topic that they might like, correct?
we have any
Oh,
topic on it.
so
Yes,
that's
yes,
when I
that's
looked at
correct.
that one. The next one I talked about is that who runs the reports. It says they run a report and send it to elected officials and department heads. Who's the elected officials and department heads that gonna get a report that I don't know what it is?
I've never seen one, so we've never elected to exercise that option.
But it's, I'm sorry, I was just looking at this Appendix A, which we were about to sign, and it bothered me that this run detailed reports, what report of what?
So if you click on the citizen participation, there's a whole bunch of things, you can run any report or any advancement put
Who
out.
runs the report?
I can run the report.
Okay.
So what the report really can do is if I'm looking for percentage, if I put a comment or a survey or whatever, I can go in there, I can download all this stuff, hit participation, but only percents of people, percents of comments, the whole 9 yards. We've never run them.
Okay, run reports and distribute them to elected members or department heads, and that would be up to you who ran the report.
Report to distribute.
Not this organization or
No,
department.
no.
So it's, you can select to run the report, and you can then determine who you send it to.
That's right. This is what they're providing us.
Okay, and one, I got two
Yep,
more.
no problem.
Who gets the 2 hours of training?
The 2 hours of training was already given when we first went on. This is a.
So this is ongoing?
This has been ongoing for a while. This is not new.
Yeah, this isn't new.
This
I
has
had
been,
no- I'm seeing this for the first time,
oh,
so
no,
I'm
this has
thinking
been on
it's
for
new.
quite some time.
It's not, I
Years.
must have
No.
missed
2
this
or
thing.
3 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay,
this has been going on for a
so
while.
has there been reports out of it?
I've never requested them, I can. We can take this
Okay,
to the
you
18th
request them
level.
or you can run them?
I can request them and I can run them.
Okay.
We just never have.
Under the primary, under the web training, you've got the training.
Mhm.
It says additional online support would be provided.
We do, we call them, if any problems, you call them and they'll take care of it, whatever we need.
Okay,
It's
so
all
who
in-
knows about this website? I'm saying to myself, how will this website be promoted? If it exists, who knows about it? Because I don't even know about it.
Oh, well.
And I like to think I'm pretty much up with what's available. Do we ever get comments?
Mhm.
Did I miss it?
Mhm.
know if you did, I did too.
How do I get to the website?
It's wareham.ma, I'll give you the website, I want to be, yeah, I'll give you.
So this is an ongoing company anyway,
Yeah,
at $441
a month.
a month.
Yep.
So the contract started in August, we probably paid it from the leftover the last year's
It's
contract.
been ongoing.
Okay, sorry, and that's fine. It's a continuation of an existing, didn't make that. Thank you. Okay, Peter, your question?
No, you asked it.
Have a motion to accept this?
I make a motion that we approve the Granicus, contract as written.
Second,
Oh, Peter,
you can have it.
no, you got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4-0.
What's the website, guy?
He's gonna check it out.
Because it's wareham.ma, I was gonna see if I had it here.
It's what?
I don't wanna give you, I don't wanna mislead you, I'm gonna see if I got it here.
Trust me, with me and a computer, that won't take any.
Just 'cause
So Guy will send the commissioners the website.
Yes. Just wanna see if I have it there, I can sign here. 'Cause I get comments all
Okay.
the time.
Okay, now we have
PhD.
GHD contract for
Oh, lagoon.
resiliency assessment of the lagoons.
So, yeah, and it goes a little deeper, Mr. Chairman, of lagoons. It's how do we handle the extraneous flow that we're getting to the lagoons? So is it redoing the lagoons? Is it redoing the process? What is it that'll handle? We know that the part of our biggest problem is the sump pumps. We know that 40% of that water is from sump pumps. So we'll look at part of that also, but the money is to assess what the heck is going on and how can we handle it. So the last time we had permission to dump it, we don't want to do that again. What do we do? And so that's the study, assess it all.
This, and when did meeting 1 happen?
When we sat down with us, the date was, I forget the date.
So it's already, meeting 1 has already happened.
We had to sit down with the CZM and go over it.
Because they said there's 3 possibilities. Make the wall higher, put in more clarifiers, or stage the pump runs from various pump stations to stagger the flow.
Those are 3 suggestions. It
And
doesn't
if-
mean we're going to go there.
No, but if they were to stagger the flow from pump stations, wouldn't we have a backup
No,
that wouldn't flow?
no,
So we wouldn't have,
no. So what happens is, we have 3 main pump stations that pump to the treatment plant.
Yep.
Narrows Pump Station, Depot Street, and Heinz Field and Onset. Excuse me. So what we're saying is that we already have computers out there. We install computers, we install radio communication, we have an FCC license. And what we're saying is we want the pump stations to talk to each other and state simple facts that, listen, you're running, I don't want to run. When you get done running, I'll run. Oh, wait a minute. And so in the
okay, so
communication, we
it would be
have
a
one.
computer-selected system as to what comes and goes to reduce, to
The-
ease the flow.
Absolutely.
Ease
Absolutely.
the flow into the system. That's
Absolutely.
one of the things they
We're gonna look at.
proposed. Okay.
And do we have the money to do this?
The-
82,000?
The system's in place. We've already spent money on it. We've been doing it for quite a while.
Wait, so the 82,470 has already been paid?
No, what I'm saying to you is we have this equipment in place if we were going to utilize that option
The third option?
Yes.
But what's the funding source for this 82,000?
that's coming out of the, it's coming out of our budget.
The capital budget?
It's coming out of the capital budget. I believe let me look, because I may take it out of, I believe we may take it out of outside contractors. So let me verify with Lee before I run my mouth, because we had to do this before, so I believe it's
Fees for payment.
outside
They are
contractors. She may have already set that money aside, so let me ask. When we get a grant, she sets money aside wherever it is, and so I'm gonna verify that. I don't want to mislead you.
What page is the options on, Sandy?
I'll find it.
And at the time of this, there were proposals and options, but it's not,
No,
it doesn't
it's-
restrict.
Under basics, wait a minute, I'll find it.
The part 1 basic services,
No,
because I don't find it.
no, I saw it. I saw it online.
Yeah, I don't think this, I think those
I don't see it
discussions
here.
were, I don't believe it's in
Exhibit
this.
A, scope of work. I don't think it's attached here,
No.
because I did see it online when I looked at it.
It might be partially here.
It's listed in two places. Oh, here it is,
Oh,
under part one, basic services.
Yeah, A, B, C.
what page?
It doesn't have a page number on it, this is what it looks like.
Is it in the real back or?
Yeah, this is exhibit A, it's halfway through it.
Right.
So please, I gotta look at this, it says structural modifications such as, doesn't mean that's what's gonna happen. Process modifications
Yeah.
such as,
Yes,
doesn't mean that's gonna
I
happen.
know that. I'm looking at
Operations
it.
such
I
as, so
read-
don't take that
Did you-
as,
Did you see it?
that's all it is.
No, I haven't.
See what I mean?
Keep turning, wait, keep, one more, keep going. There.
Got it, okay.
Okay, so it doesn't say that's what we're gonna do.
No,
It
I
says
know
such
that, this
as.
is
Well,
three possibilities, and I just
No,
wanted to.
it's just three possibilities of a million. So it
And that-
doesn't mean
is
that
there-
that's
Okay,
structural modifications such as.
I saw that.
Okay, that means that this is just some examples.
I
There's
underst-
many other examples we're
I
not gonna put in here.
understand that this is
Okay.
a draft alternatives
Mm.
review.
That's all
And
it is.
final alternatives review are really the same thing.
Mhm.
But my question is, why can't we put more, can we get approval to put in more water into the river?
No, because the water is, it's based upon the Q factor of flushing.
Okay,
It only does so much flushing. And
Okay.
so we only put so much nitrogen in the water that flushes out to the ocean.
okay,
So you
because
have
it's
to-
because of the current and the flow of the river limits what we can put in regardless of what we have to put in. Okay,
So it's pound loading to
Yes.
that daily pounds loading.
so when I read
That's the
this,
reason for trying to do the pipeline
Fine,
down
it-
the canal,
oh, yeah, because of the
because
flow.
that would be the expulsion that
Okay,
we'd be
you've
able to
answered
have.
you've answered my questions on it, but there was a meeting one. Any idea when is the process meeting two?
I just got the contract today from the state, and I don't know, I can look at it. I'll tell you when the meeting's next week.
Is it possible to be invited to that meeting?
You're invited to anything and all
Will
things.
they know about it?
Yeah, so,
Yeah. Okay.
absolutely, you're invited to all things and
So,
all this. No.
out of this, you'll confirm to us the funding source at the next meeting?
She's already pulled it, so I suggest you one of two places, capital or outside
Outside
contractors.
contractors.
I believe it's outside contractors.
So I make a motion to, do we, oh, yeah, okay, go ahead.
Make it,
So they haven't decided which is the best method, is that what
We
they're
have
saying?
no idea. These are just examples we can look at. We're gonna look at everything. and
But
then
I
we'll
mean,
decide.
are those of the three primary?
No, there's just, those are things that we discuss in the roundtable. What about, can we do this? Can we do that? What about this? Any other suggestions we're gonna look at?
so this is costing us $82,000.
That's what, whatever the cost, yeah, I think I don't
Yeah,
have the number. I
it
think
is
it's 82,000 is costing us in our out of pocket, and I
Yep.
believe
If
the
we
total
can't
cost
afford to
is-
do structural modifications, there's no sense looking at that. If we can't afford process
Well,
modifications, there's no sense looking at that.
The thing is that we gotta look at something because we have to do something, because what we did, went through last March, if it happens again, we're in trouble. And so it isn't like we can ignore it because it's significant. And
Okay,
while
well,
we're doing this, we
All
got,
right, then,
that's all.
what are the costs associated with the three options that
I have no
are
idea.
put down here?
I have no idea. We'll find out what the costs are, we'll have to figure out what's the most
Will
practical.
that be included in their study?
Mhm.
Yep, provide estimated order of magnitude cost for each alternative reviewed,
figure
letter
it out.
G. So
We'll
it's
have to
part of
figure
what
it
we're
out.
paying for.
Mhm. We just have to do something. We can't do nothing. We have to do something.
All right, I'm gonna try this again. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and accept this.
Where's the money coming from?
He's not sure.
I believe it's coming outside
He's got it.
contractors. She's already
Uh,
set the money aside, I'll find out exactly.
For the services for resiliency assessment of overflow lagoons.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
400.
okay, you ready for me again? It says for,
One second.
Sorry?
Oh, no,
Yeah.
about gas connection. What's, the website?
Okay,
Oh, no,
this
that's
is,
not
we have now the contract for GHD again. This is the services for installation of bypass connection at Narrows and Hinesfield pumping stations.
And I think we need to, I don't know what makes a difference or not, but they're also going to give us a design for the bypass assembly at the Narrows pumping station. So it's more than just the design of the bypass here, it's for something more at the Narrows. I'm just confused. This is only for design.
No, it's for the construction of two bypasses and the design of another one.
They're doing the construction.
Yeah.
We're gonna put in two bypasses.
I know, but I got the feeling that we're paying $60,000 for them to do the bidding and the construction phase services as opposed to the physical work. I didn't
Correct.
get to them that they're gonna physically dig the hole.
They're not-
No,
I got
they'll
the-
probably get somebody to dig it, but that money's provided for in the grant.
Is that part of the 60,000?
It's part of, yes, it's part of the grant. Our cost is 60,000. The rest is paid for by CZM.
Okay, I did not, it says bidding and construction phase services. I did not get a feel from this that they're actually going to do the construction itself. I thought they were just going to be a supporting, on-site service.
Yes, they're the engineers to make sure it gets done. I'm sure they're not gonna go.
But are they going to put it out to some, they're gonna put a bid out to somebody
they
to
have
do
to
the
put-
work?
absolutely. They
So
take
they're
care of it.
not doing the work?
No, they're not gonna put a shovel in the ground. They're gonna
Okay.
make sure it gets done.
So this is just bidding
This is
and then
just-
oversight?
This is just a paper pushing thing for 60 grand, they're gonna charge us the,
No, they're gonna design it.
okay,
They've gotta bid it. There's a lot that's gonna take place before we build it.
okay.
That's gonna be all on them.
And
But-
does this,
But what Sandy's bringing up is what I brought up before. If they're gonna throw it out for bid, how can they tell us what it's gonna cost if they haven't got the bid yet?
It's all in the grant, so what happens is the CZM does what they call, what's the right word? When you do design, there's a 10%, 25%, and a 75% and 100%. So at the 25%, GHD gets quotes and they figure out what the cost is. We go to the grantees and tell them this is what our budget is, our proposed budget, and they give us a grant. And then they put it out for bid. But when we do a bid, we do quotes. I call you up, Peter, how much the bill is? You say this one is. I ask it, and then I say, okay, so now when I go to the grantee, I take the highest quote and say, this is what I've been quoted. So the goal is that this is the worst case scenario, I'm gonna back it down to maybe you're $10,000 cheaper. So they establish a budget, and they go to the state and say, this is what the budget's going to be. It's okay, that's fine, that's fine, we'll pay for that. And so that's where we are with it.
okay,
So there's some preliminary budget work that they do previous to doing
but
anything.
they're gonna be doing the bid, they're gonna put out to bid the work, they're gonna design the project,
Yep.
put it out to bid and oversee it. So
Mhm.
somewhere down the line, we're gonna get a bid to say this is gonna take us to $900,000, of which some of it's covered by a grant. But this is not physically doing the work.
How much?
No, because what it says is they're gonna, if you read in the kick-up
Yeah.
in drop package, we're gonna put another package, draft package where we're going to provide building assistance, we're gonna put it out to bid, we're gonna make sure the plans are right, we're gonna provide up to 82 hours of construction administration services, including
I
review shop, so
did-
they're gonna do all that work.
Okay, it was the title of it that bothered, that
What title?
confused me, for services for installation of bypass connection.
Mhm.
I thought they were gonna provide the services to put in the bypass connection.
no, there's-
So
there
I
is
now
rules.
understand it's only
Okay,
for
now the
bidding and
second part
design.
of this equation,
There's never,
Guy,
I've never been.
when this, who's gonna pay for the actual construction that takes place?
It's in the grant. We're paying 80,000 portion, the rest of it is being paid for by the grant. So the grant is
60,000?
25% of the total cost of the grant. We owe 25%. 75% is paid for by the state.
Who's
So-
And now the grant, the total grant, does that encompass this work
Installation,
No.
and design?
yes, it includes everything.
Includes the 60,000 as well, so if we were actually paying 25% of this
No,
60,000.
we're paying 60,000, which is 25% of the total cost of the project.
Okay, so that's all we're paying.
That's all we're paying.
Okay.
That's all we're paying.
That's okay. I
That's
got,
it.
I
That's all we're
got,
paying.
I got you now.
The rest is
So
paid for by the
This
state.
job completed
60 grand.
fee is 60
The
grand.
60
So
grand
we
to
don't
us.
have to
Okay.
pay additional
That's it.
for the work.
So
That's all we pay,
that's-
Well,
60
Grant's
grand.
gonna pay for it.
Let me-
So in other words, what you said in here, in the first stage of this, the services of installation of bypass, it is gonna be installation.
Yes,
They
yes.
themselves aren't gonna necessarily do it.
They're not gonna
It
dig the
is-
hole, but-
it's-
No, no, no,
They're
no.
part of the
I hear you.
installation.
And
Okay,
they're
so
going to
now
make sure the
I
bidding goes
understand.
out, get the
Fine.
right, they're gonna do it all.
Okay.
Okay, and where is
That's
the
what I'm
funding
sure.
coming from?
The state is pouring some,
No, where is the 60,000 coming from?
It's the same answer. It'll be outside contractors or the capital, or last lead where it is, because she's already allocated the funds.
Who's she? Judy?
Lee.
Oh,
Lee.
Lee.
Yeah, Lee has to allocate out of our budget and gives it to the accountant, so.
So at next meeting, you'll be able to tell us where the funding will be for this one too. And I just have one more comment on
Yeah,
it.
sure.
Part of it is talking about the, well, when we get to Appendix A. Oh, right, that one. It talks about, under Part 1, Exhibit A, G, final design of Narrows Pump Station bypass. And attend one hearing of the RDA for the Conservation Commission.
Mhm.
My recommendation is that if that meeting is continued, we will pay separately for a second hearing. I believe that has to be read. They will attend all Conservation Commission meetings until the project is approved. Limiting it to one, I think is a mistake.
And it's in one hearing, yeah, I don't know how I mean, they could drag it on forever, and I don't know how
No,
it
we
works.
won't,
Well, I'm not, so, I mean, at one meeting, you should be able to determination. Just sit at the documents.
to be
I'm
honest
just-
with you,
yeah, I just-
most of our meetings are continued because we have not received all the documentation we need from various input. They didn't put out the green cards. They didn't, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Notices. Sometimes we don't get our DEP, I mean, we just don't, it
So-
isn't always done in one meeting is what I'm
I hear you,
saying.
but I don't think there's any abutters to notify. It's Narrows Pump Station. I believe it's maintenance of the pump station, which comes a whole new set of rules under the Conservation Act, Wetland Protection Act.
Granted,
So I think that
the
they're well
abutters are
aware.
anybody who abuts that particular land, all those landowners that attach to the,
It should be the town.
oh,
You got a
the gas
parking lot. We
station.
cut out a piece of it, so the butters would be around us immediately as the town of Wareham. I don't know how far you go to
100
butters.
feet.
100 feet, so I believe there's only one, the rest is town of Wareham, but that's, and
But-
so whatever has to happen.
But I'm just
so-
saying, I'm concerned that if this contract is limited to one hearing and we go to a second hearing, we'll be charged additional funding
We're not
outside of
gonna
this.
get charged anything, because it's not in the contract, but I just don't know, I can't
Okay,
answer that.
can you ask the question, what happens if you have to attend more than one Conservation Commission meeting?
Russ does really a lot, I'll ask him, because he does a lot with conservations, and he kinda knows what to expect, so yeah, I'll definitely ask. Because I know my point is, he'll prepare for it, he'll make sure you're prepared, you don't know yet. And while we're waiting, we should walk it, so we can have all the questions answered, we'll walk the pump station. I'll show you exactly where it's gonna go, we'll go through it all, before we even get to the final plan. So you'll be educated and up to speed on everything. When it comes in front of your board, you'll have all the answers, because you'll see it. Promise you.
All right.
Before you say that, Donna,
You know what I'm gonna say.
you're gonna make a motion.
It's like, what? You're good.
Guy, they're gonna be working at the Narrows Pump Station. I got this from you today about what Wright Pierce, and them looking at the conditions at the pump station. And them checking the 16 and 18-inch force mains.
That's what they're doing.
It's another whole project.
I understand that,
Okay.
but if they're going to be looking at the pump station in order to do the bypass, couldn't they do the tap at the same time? Why?
Two separate contracts, remember, the top is done by a contractor, and it's not in their scope of work, so there's no way I can say why you're there, because they're just doing design, there's no work being done, they're gonna do a design, off our plans, walk the land, take measurements, and so, okay, this is what we can do, given the box and the whole 9 yards.
All right, I'll bring that up later then.
Yeah, there's no physical.
My question to that is, inevitably, somebody's gonna be doing the work. The engineer's just gonna oversee it, so why can't the person that's doing the work, I think that's what you're referring to, do the tap thing?
There's no work done at that particular site. That site is just, they're doing, the Narrows was after the fact. we applied for the grant. We had done, originally we'd done Heinz Field, and we were doing Cohasset Narrows. We did this a while back because we had some issues, we slowed down because of some
Right.
issues. It was supposed to be a ballpark out back and a road on the side, so we approached it very carefully, and so that never happened, so we moved forward. So then after that's done, we said, well, can you design narrows? So they added to the scope, just to design narrows. And so once that design gets done, you know, they're just gonna design. Remember, the design that we're working on for the existing narrows, that was the
Right.
last grant. And so in this grant, they're gonna do design for narrows, plus the actual work for Cohasset narrows and Heinz. So what Peter's talking about, Commissioner is talking about, is the TAP. That's a whole, we
Right.
hired Wright Pierce to do the evaluation of the force main. And that's tapping the pipe or doing, there's a couple options, but
You're talking
we're gonna
about the
tap
map.
it. So
This
that's
is
another,
talking about the
yeah,
one
it's
you're
another
talking about
whole
is the narrows
separate project.
downtown.
But-
that we
Remember,
remo-
this other one we're talking about is Buzzards Bay,
Cohasset.
Cohasset
Yes.
Narrows. So we're
And
talking
so-
about two different locations.
Yeah. And that contract is, we've already got it done, we cut it back to 100,000, we're gonna move forward, but before I moved, I wanted to make sure you got the final results, and I was gonna ask your opinion, because whichever one we do is already covered at $100,000. We've already approved and do the work. I just did explain both, and you can decide which one you prefer to do.
Yep.
That's all that was. Because I'm gonna move forward, but I prefer the board saying, hey, this is a better way to go, and we'll go
Yep.
whichever way we should.
Okay.
Let's.
That's all that is, separate.
Can we finish?
The
Okay.
Cohasset
Yeah.
Narrows, Heinz Field.
Now you can make it.
Oh, yeah, this, the bypass.
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the services for the design services for the installation of the bypass connection at Cohasset Narrows and Heinz Field pumping stations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 1-0-0. Okay. I know we have this other one, we just discussed it, and as we continue.
I was gonna bring up our report, but you can do, we can pick
Yeah,
it
go
up
ahead
anytime you
then,
want.
please.
No, no,
Please do.
Do whatever you want to do.
Well, I mean, I got it here, and it's already brought up, so let's just do it here, and you can tag on to it.
I don't think I've seen that, Art.
Came in the email
I emailed
this
it.
afternoon.
Oh,
It's the
I didn't print it off yet.
options for the 16 and 18-inch
Oh, okay.
diameter forced main condition assessment. This is the one to look at the forced main, take a couple taps out of it to determine the viability of the.
Yeah.
Is that the
Right,
one that's
that's in
been,
there.
was approved by capital planning a
Yes,
while
it's all
ago?
approved.
Yeah, this is.
Okay, well, just trying to
Yeah.
make sure I was on the
Yeah,
right
this
page.
is- Okay, what this gives us is two different options.
Yeah, I see.
One a $45,000 option and the other a $58,000 option, or $59,000.
Okay.
Couple of quick questions I have on it, Guy. Is option one, option two, is there a timeline differential?
No, we can do them both in the same amount of time. We want to get them done rapidly. It's just, one is more, we believe, the $59,000 option is 10-foot of pipe with an electrical bracelet that's going to read the pipe to 10 feet and give you a wider selection of what may or may
What
not
would
be.
you recommend?
I would recommend the electrical, but it's $10,000 more.
Can I
It's
ask
all
a
within
silly
the budget.
question?
No, there's no silly question.
Why can't you tell them to buy the right size tap?
What do you mean?
Well, they say they can't do it because they don't have that piece of equipment.
What they're
That's why
saying
they
is.
want to excavate
no.
the hole.
What they're saying, we asked them if they could do it in the manhole. Absolutely not. We asked if they could do it in the structures. Absolutely not, because the tap is a big machine. So we can't, it was just a question, in our research, we said, okay, let's try to minimize costs. Can you do it in the manhole? No, I can't do it in the manhole. Okay. Can you do it in the box? No, I can't do it in the box. Because the tap machine, we're tapping live. It's a huge piece of equipment to go in there, drill into the pipe, pull out and seal it, and then make a connection. Can't do it in the two areas, so we asked the question.
That's all
Yeah,
I
we
wanted
just
to
wanted
hear.
to know if we could. If we could, we could have saved excavation money, but it can't be
Well,
done.
that's exactly what I was getting at.
Yeah, that's, we looked at that, we can't.
Why do you recommend the higher?
What I'm saying is because you're getting 10 feet of pipe opposed to one spot. We're gonna do a 4-inch bore,
Yeah.
and we're gonna pull out that coupon. We're gonna send that coupon away for that, to be analyzed.
Right.
And what they're gonna analyze is the present condition of that pipe compared to what the manufacturer built that pipe specs to.
Okay.
So that's one little point. The
Okay.
10-foot, you put a bracelet, it sends an electrical current 10 feet. It's okay to analyze that, so we're gonna get a readback of that pipe for 10 feet. So all I'm saying is that you may get more of a representation of a long pipe, 10 feet would give me better representation than 1 foot, 4 inches. And do that 10 feet at the high point where you're prone to have the greatest problem because of the air relief valve. And then do it at the beginning, which should be your least, and you got a major comparison. Opposed to taking the coupon.
So they're
and
gonna
the
do two
coupon.
samples?
Two samples.
And they're gonna do it at the, way we had to replace the air valve?
That one spot and the other spot down the lower end.
Why the lower?
Because you're gonna get, the high end is gonna be its worst case, the
Right.
lower end should be its best case. So if it's bad at the best case and bad at the worst case, then we got a major overhaul.
If it's bad in either case, we have to line them, so what difference does it make?
Because you may not, if the first part is 99%, I wouldn't line it. If the second part is 25%, I would line it. Because remember, to line that pipe, we gotta cut it in sections anyways, because a liner can't go 1.9 miles around bends. So we gotta make sections, so if we find out that this section is good, why would you line a section that's 99% good? Make no sense. So that's what the idea of doing the coupons and the test are.
Well, I guess I understand your rationale on that standpoint, but I go back to now, that pipe is how old?
It's 1972. In theory, a full
So-
pipe doesn't rot, but we can't say it's full all the time. If it
Especially
is,
since you have a failed air valve.
so that's, if you have a failed air valve, then the top crown, the highest point of that pipeline, could be in serious trouble. But the beginning, let's say the first 100 feet, 200 feet, 300 feet, may be perfect because you're pushing water, because force mains are designed to go uphill, so they stay flooded. And when they make the crest to go back down in, it's that area that's your most concerned because air gets introduced, which creates the environment for hydrogen sulfide, for the bacteria, and of course the acid. That's your most vulnerability. Because we looked at the Plymouth case, that pipe had miles of air gaps. It cost them. So we don't know that. So we're going to take the highest point where the most likelihood is and analyze that. Then we're going to go back and analyze where it should be flooded and pull the tap there. If we pull in and says, wow, this is almost pristine, then why would I line it? I know the condition of that pipe is good. This may be bad, so we can make a decision to where we get what we actually have to do. And that's why I'm saying 10 feet gives us a better decision. We should do the whole pipe, but that's crazy. That's cost prohibitive, it's $250,000, $300,000. So we decided that we reduced the scope to 100,000. So with 100,000, we got to work with it. And so that's going to get us down to two taps, 2 4-inch taps, or 2 10-inch swaths. And to me, the 10-foot swaths. The 10-foot swaths seem to be gives me a better clue of what's going on than a 4-inch. Because we whittle it down to 2 taps, 4 inches. And we went out with the assumption that no matter what we find, it's going to be bad. That's how it's going to be bad anyways. And so we said, okay, we'll just do one in the beginning where it's going to be the best, and one in the middle where it's going to be its worst, and make a decision. And that's why we're doing it. We may find out that it's junk, we got to line it. We may find out that this is good, that I have no idea. And why we're doing this is to assess, instead of just arbitrarily saying, let's line it, which we may have to do, or we may not have to do. We certainly will find out.
Well, you do have an idea.
We haven't, it's old.
Yeah.
And the top end, because I looked at the air relief valve, scared the bejesus out of me. So the top end, where it's at the highest peak, I'm nervous about. And so we're definitely going to look at that. Do we look at 4 inches of that or 10 feet of that? 10 feet, I believe, is a bigger picture than a 4-inch piece. That's my thoughts. And then do the lower end, do we do 4 inches or 10 feet? Whichever, it doesn't matter. We're going to go look at both of them. No matter which one we do, it's going to give us more knowledge than we presently have. And then so we have to figure out where does it go on the list. Because as you're well aware, we've got a lot of pipe to do, and we don't have millions and millions and millions of dollars. Where are we going to put our money? To line that entire pipe is 1.6, 1.7 million. It's about 3 million to 4 million to replace. And so and remember when we do this one, it's going to be a representation of the onset force main because they're put in the exact same time.
Swiss Beach too.
It's so that's when we're lining the concrete, but we haven't looked at the force main. Oh, we look at that force main. So the question becomes is how far do we go? And so maybe it's wise to do these samples. And you know what? They're all bad, but this is a higher, and spend money as we go. Or we borrow 100 million and say, you know what? We're going to do them all.
How did they do this without excavating?
They have to excavate. There's, the one of them that we're trying to do in the chamber. So in the one that has the bracelet, they
Yeah.
can do in the chamber at Narrows. So one point won't be excavated, but the second point will be excavated because we can't do it at the second point. But it's a more expensive process, so, and the tap, they're both gonna be excavated because we can't get into the chambers.
How long would it take to do option 1 versus option 2, so we know what we need for a police detail?
So the options, both of them is gonna be 2 days max.
Okay, so we're both, either one, it's costing us,
It's gonna cost roughly the same thing for police
Okay.
details.
but for option 1, we have to go send the test to another site.
Mhm.
We don't do that for option 2.
No, option 2 is when they get done analyzing, they give us a report. The
Yeah.
other one, we send it to a
Yeah.
lab that
And pay
analyzes it,
them
and tells
for it,
us, and tells us what the deal is. The only difference for me is 4 inches versus 10 feet, that's all. If I wanna look at a pipe, can I get information in 4 inches, or do I wanna see 10 feet? That's all it is. That's
Yeah.
all it is. For me, which one do we prefer?
On option 2, I only see the excavation at one point.
Because we can put the bracelet inside the chamber by Narrows, so there's no sense in excavating.
And get 10 feet?
You can get 10 feet.
Oh, okay.
So it just makes, it's just
All right,
one less
all right.
excavation. So whichever, I would do one, but I just thought, instead of making a decision between me and the engineers, I wanted the board to be involved, and it's all within the $100,000. So which one do we want to do? And so whichever one we decide to do, we'll do. But both of them are within the $100,000 allocated for this
So
project.
this is capital.
Yes, this is capital. It's already been approved at town meeting.
Yes.
Everything's there, but we just gotta figure out which one we wanna do.
Okay, do I have a motion on one of these, or both of them, or all of them, or none of them?
Can't do both. I'd like to do both, but I can't do both. I can't afford it. I'd like to do more, but I think we'll get enough information. I'm pretty sure. We're pretty convinced that we'll get enough information.
All right.
I just know we're gonna end up blending the pipe.
Yeah, I
We
do,
may.
I do too.
We may. We absolutely may, but what we're gonna find out is the time frame. Like when we did the camera work on that 21 inch, it became more imminent than it did, when are we gonna do it? It's so, wow, it's really bad, we gotta do
Now,
it immediately. So that's all we're doing.
The second piece of pipe, you said that just the same condition over an onset. Where's that?
It goes from Lopes Field to the exact same point that this enters across from the Minor Forest School.
To where?
My
So
first.
Minor Forest School is the pipes go across, they come down Minor Ave, one comes from Onset and one comes from Narrows, and they both enter, go down the hill, under the river, and up to the pump station, to the plant, right between Minor School and the
Randy Hill.
Brandy Hill. So they're both put in the exact same time. So all I'm saying is that we do one assessment, we should have an idea what the other one's like. That's all I'm saying. So if we find it totally bad, you're gonna line it, then we'll line the other one too.
While they're digging up at the on Minot Avenue, why not do both sides of the air valve?
Because the air valve's here, so whether we do this side or that side, you're gonna have the same conditions on the slope of the pipe, so.
All right, so we'll already have the answer then for the onset pipe. That was my point.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, so we know whatever we see, it's gonna be the onset pipe.
All right, fine, that was my point.
That's all I'm saying. So my point to just line it, it's because of priorities. We have a lot of money to spend in the next 20 years. We could do it quicker than that, but we have limited funds, so how are we gonna do all this? And so this is why the research comes in. So we can decide as a group which ones have a higher priority. We can't do it all. That's all it is.
All right, I make a motion that
We'll support you on the on option 2.
option 2, I make a motion that we approve the Wright Pierce contract
Oh, no, this is
with
just,
option 2 and go with the option 2.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
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 Is that all you need on that, guy?
That's it. Okay. So everything's approved. You guys approved it, but I just wanted to.
So this is approving the project of the $58,850.
Yes.
Okay. So that's done.
Okay, your report.
You better come
So,
through it.
one thing, I had sent over a letter that we're gonna send to the residents notifying them of an increase of sewer rates. And we were gonna wait until we got the sump pump one done to do it all together. And what I'm thinking is that we should actually send out the letter for the rate increase almost sooner than later, because so people can prepare
I
for the
agree.
next billing cycle, instead of waiting for the sump pump to be hammered out and done. And so when the sump pump gets handed out, then we'll do that one. But right now, I think we need to get a letter out saying, hey, guys, we're raising your rates, so people can prepare for the January, or the February 1 billing.
I couldn't agree more. That I
Right.
think it should be.
Right, so I wanted to make sure, so I want to do that, but
So, Ted, you don't need a motion to do that, right? Just
no,
go ahead
I'm
and do
gonna
it.
send it, but I wanted,
Yeah,
because we agreed to do it together,
yeah.
and I just don't think we can wait. I
Nope.
just think I gotta get this
I
out.
think it's the right thing to do myself.
Yeah, I go along with you 100%.
I'm meeting with Mr. Sullivan, we're there today, but things change from rapidly on Stone Path malt production.
Thank you.
Right.
There's been some controversy. They believe that if they just put a ball valve, they're fine. And I said, I don't know that. We need an impact study. They need to do an assessment of the pump station, assessment of the pipeline, and they've been balking at it. So what I said to them is that I would call the DEP, which I had, and DEP said that as a unit, we have the right to revoke or to pull their connection and reissue an industrial, which triggers all this. So I presented all that to the town administrator. We don't want to go there, but I said to him, we have to protect the infrastructure, and I'm going to be very selfish for a minute here. If we knowingly allow them to go online, and we have an SSO, and I have knowledge of it, then I'm negligent. If I'm negligent, it threatens my license. And I said to Mr. Sullivan that I'm not jeopardizing my license, because that's my livelihood. So I am requiring them to do an impact study before I let them go. So we're going to meet to try to mediate something that, let me back up a step. So in this conversation with Mr. Sullivan, I talked to Dave McQueen, who is the person who's going to issue the certificate of occupancy.
Now, that's, you're talking about the beer place?
Yes.
Well, how come they're open now?
They're
They
open.
don't have a certificate of occupancy?
Well,
That's another topic.
That's another topic, another day. This can go all kinds of ways. So what I need to do is protect
Have you run
us.
the tape?
And
The
I
beer's
said,
not bad, I was in there.
No, seriously.
yeah, they got, and so I said, the bottom line is that we need to protect, because for me, I have a wet well that holds 1,200 gallons. That's the wet well. They're gonna discharge a $3,000 slug, a 3,000 gallon slug, and a 5,000 gallon slug. So they're gonna come at me about between 200 and 300 gallons a minute. My pump does 197 gallons a minute. The numbers don't work for me. It tells me we're gonna have a surcharge and a backup and an overflow. And so I said to them, I can't have this. You need to mitigate that. You need to do an impact study by engineer, and let's find out how we're gonna mitigate that. And they said, oh, we'll just put a ball valve and slow it down to 170. Well, the ball valve doesn't tell you flow. It's not a flow regulator. You gotta guess, and I don't wanna guess. I said, if you wanna do a ball valve, then I need it calibrated. You have somebody come in and say, at this point, it's 160 gallons a minute, at this point, and they says, well, no, we got a good idea, and I said, well, I appreciate your idea, but I gotta tell you, I need it to be precise, I need it to be exact, and someone needs to be accountable for that. So that's our battle. And so, what Mr. Sullivan and I are going to do is we're gonna write this up and say, he wants to do it in phases, so a 90-day phase, that they calibrate the flow valve to make sure that they don't overwhelm us while they develop a plan to mitigate or to do an assessment and then mitigate.
And excuse me, guy, right there, 1 second.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a conversation that they're gonna be doing 3 dumps, not 2?
This is the controversy. They're saying, actually, there's gonna be 9 dumps eventually. So what they said is that we do 2, where everybody else does 3, we're better. So, well, the manufacturer says there's 3 dumps. They said they can do it in 2. I said to Mr. Sullivan, I go by what the manufacturer says, until proven differently. That's why he says, well, you should do it in 90 days and give them the chance to prove it. I says, what about me having an SSO in 90 days? That's my issue. He says, well, we'll make them put the valves in and regulate it. We'll put bigger pumps. I said, well, that's not the issue. It's restricted to the force main, but we can look at that also. But what I said is that it shouldn't be on the back of the ratepayers to make adjustments for a business. It should
No.
never be the ratepayers' responsibility to fund a business. So we're gonna meet again Monday, we're gonna do it today, but we're gonna meet again Monday and hammer this out, because I said to Mr. Sullivan and to Dave Requeener and to the owners that I will bring in the DEP in a second. I'll turn it over, because I cannot have knowingly be part of a negligent decision to allow them to flow that's gonna impact our system. I just can't. I
This
can't follow
90-day study they're gonna do, that'll be after they're open.
Oh, yeah, they're open.
They've been
They're
open
open now.
already.
They're open.
Yeah, but they're not pumping yet.
What-
Well, they're pumping, well, yeah, you're right, they haven't done the production, but, so
Their
I am
grand opening
very-
is October 6th,
I'm very,
or is it 26th?
it's
Well,
next
you said
week.
It's next Thursday.
Actually, they
Next
told
Thursday's
me,
our ribbon cutting.
they already told me that tomorrow they officially, well, that's another story. I don't know, I
So
can't answer you.
With me, you, Derek, and who else are meeting on Monday?
It's Derek and I,
Just you, okay.
Derek and I. We're gonna do it today, but it's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
came
something
up.
happened.
So Monday, Derek and I are gonna meet, we're gonna hammer this out. Because I said to Derek that we're on the hook. And I don't want the town to be responsible, I don't want the ratepayers to be responsible. And selfishly, I'm not gonna jeopardize my license because we make a bad decision.
I love the
I wanna
technology.
go on record as supporting you.
Yeah, me as well, and I don't for the life of me understand how they can
Have an
set up shop
occupancy permit
with no
without,
occupancy permit.
well, they have an occupancy permit, or they do, but they haven't got approval from the sewer.
We haven't preventing, but Dave said to me that he hadn't issued the occupancy permit and we had conditions. I said that for me
But
to.
how are they open?
I don't know, they say it's ancillary, I don't even wanna get into it. But he said that in the permit to occupy, he would put the conditions that they can only flow off-peak hours.
What happened to the impact study you asked for?
They refused, they said they don't need it. This has been a battle, I
So
don't
this is
get
where,
it.
we're back to this,
That's why I said I'm gonna bring in the Department of Environmental Protection,
I think you should.
because this is getting out of hand. So Mr. Sullivan suggests we have one more meeting and see if he can be a mediator and as a town administrator for some issues with them. And I says, I have no problem with that, because I just wanna get it done. I don't care where we go, but if it cannot get done, then I have to turn it over to the authorities to protect the town, to protect myself, and to protect the enterprise. That's my responsibility, so that's where I am with it. That's where I am with it.
I have no problem with that whatsoever.
So I wanted the
It does
board
what
to
we
be
should do.
aware, because that's where else don't pass.
should we do a motion that we support the sewer?
Well, I
Oh,
don't-
we're on record as
well,
well.
well, you wanna go on record as a board?
I would rather go on record as a board and individual
Fine.
that we support the requirement of an impact study.
We support the superintendent.
Yes, we support the superintendent for whatever his decision is to handle this
Requirement.
requirement.
We need an impact study.
Do you wanna make it a motion and a vote?
Yep. Let's do it.
I second that, Sandy.
Okay,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
4-0-0.
Okay. I'm gonna present, we had done this a while ago to Mr. McDermott about looking into purchasing that property at Cohasset Narrows.
Yes.
And I brought it to the town administrator, and at the
I had that
time,
on my list.
it got lost. I'm gonna reintroduce that to the town administrator. I'd like to get an appraisal done. What they've given us is the right of first refusal. They wanna sell it to the town. Now, I think we talked about
Land is-
Cohasset
I know,
Narrows
but
Pump
is it
Station.
where the,
Bourne Bridge meets the Wareham.
I know that, but is it the land that the building is on, or is it the land that the restaurant, I'm trying to remember.
Is it Captain Harris?
No.
Captain Harris's,
Captain
one of Captain
Harris.
Harris's?
The fish market, right
Yes.
there.
Fish market.
Captain
They
Harris.
own,
But that's
Have
the
they
building that's
yeah,
there,
they own
The
everything.
restaurant.
Have they put a number on it?
not the
No,
restaurant.
I wanna appraise it so we have a real number.
The old fish store.
They,
the old
he
fish market.
says that he's been offered $500,000 for it, and I don't know the
And-
value of that, I
and-
really don't, but I wanna appraise it.
Okay, but one of the other things too, to let everybody know, is that he is offering it to the town of Wareham contingent upon life estate.
Right, if he-
Oh,
property.
that's
he wants
right,
to live there.
that's right. Now, if he dies, we have nothing, and so, and he's not gonna, he has no intentions of selling. He really doesn't, but he said he wants to offer it to Wareham. He said, when I first met him, he says, "Guy, you ought to buy this piece of property,"
And he wants to continue to live there.
and he wants to continue to live. That was his
That's
proposal.
all.
He's not actually selling, but
Where's he
people,
live?
he
Right
lives
there
there.
in the building.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he does.
Oh,
People have approached him and wanted to buy it because there's a dock with it.
Right.
There's, I think they call them riparian rights, you can put a marina
Yeah,
there.
Marina, yeah, you can
He's-
put them
He has a
it's a
rights
nice
to put a marina
spot.
there.
Yeah,
And so we have an easement to be there. And he takes care of the property.
sell it to Mass Maritime.
He actually takes care of the property to make sure there's nothing going on. So he's been a great tenant, and I don't wanna lose that. So they're getting old. She's sickly, he's sickly, and so he said, we should go on record with something. And I can, if you purchase it tomorrow, I'd like to live there and continue what I'm doing and take care of it, but if he drops dead, then I don't know what's gonna happen. And so my fear, I think we brought it before, is that if somebody else buys that property, they may not be such a good neighbor. So that's, I wanna bring it back up to
So
Mr.
are you gonna
Sullivan.
get it appraised?
Yes, I will appraise it.
You guy will, get it,
I will hire an appraiser. I already sent him the quote for it, but we never did anything. So I want to reiterate it, but I thought, before I brought it up again with Mr. Sullivan, I want to bring it back to the board to let you know
currently,
what I want to do.
what is the assessor's price that, value that property at? So we haven't even looked at the assessors.
I looked at it a long time ago. I think it was $400 and something thousand, and I think
Okay.
that most of us may have gone up, but he said he was offered $500,000 for it. That's why that.
Well, that's the 400, close to.
So what I said is I would appraise it, you see what it's really worth, and then we can make a
I
decision
guess-
based on that.
Okay, but
Tell me.
keeping in mind, you may have been offered $500,000 for it, but I'm sure that wasn't with the life estate,
That
No,
was not.
I'm sure it wasn't.
so that has to be.
He might be
vetted.
willing to take less in order to live there.
Yep.
It might be.
But we need an appraisal first.
I think appraisal tells us where we are.
Exactly.
That's why I
But
wanted
just
to
so,
do that.
I mean, just so we're on the same page and understand that there's another piece of this puzzle. It's not just a piece of property we're looking at potentially purchasing, that's all. Just
Yeah.
Who would own it?
The enterprise.
So we could then lease the,
So here's the deal. Everything we own is owned by the town. However, the enterprise is responsible for it. So we own, the treatment plant, the town decided to lease a piece of that land out, goes to the enterprise. But the town has to be involved in that leasing. When we do a
but-
solar field.
but the
town-
point is that
The
it could
enterprise.
be, it could reduce the cost to the citizens.
If the enterprise leased the building out for a fee, and that money could go back into our money, if you will,
Fish
into our
market back
accounts
there.
to do something, yes, there's all
What
that
a
potential.
nice little
yes.
apartment that would make for somebody.
Yeah, that's
Obviously it
exactly
is,
what
but
I
that's
was
where he
thinking
is.
about.
That's where it.
I
That's
know,
where it is now.
but if it was purchased by the town of Wareham, they could very well say, we'll rent the building to somebody to do a business or to live in or something, and that rental income would come to the enterprise.
The town administrator lived there.
Yeah,
Just,
and it could be a marina
And it could be a marina.
and a bait shop.
There's a lot of options with the property, but
The
it's,
Mako move in.
it's an opportunity, just look at it, whatever it is, but I just want.
And no telephone.
But I want to bring it to you so you're not surprised. The IMA status, we have, the Abrahams is still working with Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Garino to hammer out. By IMA simply, the town administrators are supposed to review this document every 2 years. And that hasn't been happening for a while. So they're doing it now because there's a major controversy. They're saying we owe them a lot more, and we're saying we owe you a lot less. So we have an accountant, they have an accountant. Our accountant is battling them, and so they've been doing this major 2016, 2017 reconciliation. 2016 reconciliation is done, 2017 is done, it's been presented to the town administrator. It is a lot less than they anticipated. Now, there's some changes that they want to make, but I said that it has to be negotiated by the politicians at that point, because the IMA can only be negotiated by politicians, and in this case, the selectmen of both towns. So this is an ongoing thing. Last time we talked about it, nothing's changed. We're still vetting the monies. They're saying we owe them this amount of money, and we're saying we owe you this amount of money. And so that's a debate. And our CPA has run through all of them and said, no, listen, this is what you're getting. It's been endorsed by our chief financial officer and by Mr. Sullivan, so they're presenting it to the board. Where it's going to go, I don't know. But the CPAs will still be involved. Mr. Abraham's group is our CPA, and they have CLA as their CPA. They'll still be involved until we rectify this. So I wanna give you an
So
update.
you've done 2016 and 2017?
The numbers are staggering compared, they had a huge number. And
So their CPA has a different number, and our CPA, your CPA is a different number, and then you have to say, okay, where do we,
So what it is, they're basing on hypothetical, if it was done by a CPA, if the vetting was done by CPA, the monies, and we're saying, yeah, you did it by engineers, but you did it. And our CPA says, we're following the template, so yeah, it's not what you think it is. And so the debate becomes, do we follow the template, or do we make agreements to make some changes, because they should be changed. For full disclosure, a CPA approaches numbers a whole lot different than an engineer. And they hired an engineering firm to
so
write
are we
this, so.
saying that it was unclear as to what the charges should have been?
We're saying the charges should have been what they said it should have been by their template. And they're saying, yes, the template says this, however, it really means this.
Oh,
And
so
that's
it's
not true.
interpretation
It's
of the-
interpretation. And we're saying, here's a template, we're following a template, and this shouldn't be, and they're saying, yeah, I know. And the CPAs, and I talked to our CPA, and he says, God, I can understand where they're coming from.
So who's
because
gonna
it's CPA.
reconcile the difference?
The two administrators.
So the TAs.
Because that's by IMA, the town
Yeah.
administrators are supposed to be on top
Exactly.
of this. So that's where it is. So I just want you all to be upstanding, and we're paying money. We've got a contract with the Abrams Group to represent us. They're doing a great job. They've stuck by us, and they're not giving up, and they're not gonna back down 1 inch. And so once we get this done and we get all this rectified, then we'll move forward. And also, they found out that we had the right to bill them at 17.9% all these years for capital improvements, and we haven't. So they're gonna bring that number forward. So they're really finding things out that, as a town, we haven't been doing, because it should have been overseen by our accountant, and it wasn't. So they're doing a great job. They're doing a great job. They're bringing all these points out that say, hey, wait a minute, Wareham has these rights, so. And so when we get done with all this, and we'll talk about application, we'll talk about all the intricacies of the IMA, and that'll be handled by the politicians. So that's where we are with the IMA. I sent over to you a copy of the revised, I got it today, I sent it as soon as I got it, the revised conditions for the,
And you didn't have to print out the whole 27 pages,
prints
only on
out the-
page 21 and 22 deal with the
H deals with sewer. That's
sewer,
all.
so,
Everything we asked for is in there, which I'm surprised, because last time it wasn't. So it's in there, all the conditions are in there, so.
What are we talking about?
the,
we'll
Woodland
just-
Cove.
The stuff I can't open in my phone.
Yeah,
The-
you
Sent
got
out
it.
at
it
5
says-
o'clock.
a fee of a one-time $5 per gallon is to,
Yeah,
That's for
how do you
each-
determine,
So each phase, they've got 4 phases. So
Yeah.
each phase, so the first phase they were planning to do, let's say they're planning to do
but what gallon are they talking about?
the gallons at that phase, 12,000 gallons for that phase, 12,000 for the next phase.
The amount of water used for the construction is,
Yeah,
now
so
I
whatever
get it,
that phase is going
$5
to
per
be,
gallon.
per gallon. So if the first one's
You-
12,000
So this is totally,
gallons,
sorry, it's with construction, I'm saying to myself, what?
no, it's with flow. So,
To be used in the construction.
no, to be used in effluent. So right now, so let me show you, right
Wait.
now,
how much is gonna be expelled from the
plant
building once it's
per
built?
phase. So to do one building has, say, 18 apartments, each apartment has a gallon, so it's gonna be 12,000 gallons of the total 50. So the 12,000 times $5 is the money they pay before they do the first phase. And then the second phase is $5 per gallon, whatever they're gonna do the second phase. They just cut us a check. Third phase and 4 phases.
Then they have to pay the EDU for each unit?
Yeah,
Yes.
the EDUs, that's separate.
Yes.
So, okay, so this is we're asking for an upfront payment to cover.
Upfront I&I payment to help us take out the I&I that's going to match the gallons that they're taking. So it's net zero.
Okay. Okay, but I mean, I read it and I'm saying, okay, there is a grinder pump, or whatever part that was they were talking about, which is a 4-unit grinder pump for each unit, for each building. They're going to demo what was there for the hotel, this one-time $5 per gallon
Per unit.
per unit,
Yes,
No.
per phase,
per,
because it's
to
supposed
be
to be.
paid at the start of each phase.
That's right.
Okay. There will be a maintenance contract done annually for the grinder pumps, and we will get a copy of it. The maintenance agreement will agree to the frequency of the cleaning. They're verifying of pump operations by amp draws, etc., control panel operation, alarm system. Emergency number for a contract, a call-out alarm system shall be installed. User fees to be applied after the issuance of occupancy permit for each building. There will be an emergency power backup supplied to the control panels for the grinder pumps. And an agreement with a private waste hauler available 24/7 in the event of a catastrophic pump failure. If requested by the applicant, alternatives to all the above specifications are acceptable if approved by the wastewater control facility superintendent. I think that covers everything we asked for.
Okay, I have a question or comment on paragraph 1. You got paragraph 1 of one which you copied?
Paragraph, I start with H9.
Okay, well, this is on paragraph 1. And I guess any alternatives to the agreement, what should be in there is need to be approved by the sewer commission.
Yeah, if requested by the
By the
applicant.
sewer commission, not the water pollution control facility superintendent.
It says if, letter I, if
No, maybe it's
requested,
I.
if requested by the applicant, alternatives to all the above specifications are acceptable if approved by the WPCF superintendent.
That
You
should-
wanna make that change to sewer
sewer
commissioners?
commission.
Will you take that to, Ken Buckland? Because this came from his
And-
organization.
No, this came from their attorney, Freeman.
So it's down to 1 pump instead of 4?
It's
No,
4 pumps.
No,
There's
it's
4
4
pumps,
pumps
per
everything,
unit.
it's one big
One
grinder
unit.
pump with 4 grinders inside of it.
4 pumps.
4
So there'll be
pumps
20
inside.
pumps on that property. It's
And
more
this
than,
is, and they've finally agreed to all of this?
this is from their attorney. Oh, this is their attorney.
So the only thing you want to do in letter I has to be from the sewer commissioners
Right,
From the sewer commissioners or their
I'll see.
designee.
or their designee. So how is that communicated
to
to
the
the
sewer
applicant?
commissioners, it's gotta be to the sewer commissioners.
I know, but how is that change communicated to the applicants,
That's my
to
question.
Dakota?
Remember, that phrase talks,
You're suggesting I go to Ken Buckland, I don't know if he's the person to go to.
what he's saying is that specific for the director or the superintendent, specific to the pump truck and all that good stuff, that's operational. So what we'll do is, what you're gonna say is that if I have an emergency and the pumps are down, I gotta call the sewer commission, get permission to send on the pump truck.
No, that's not what we're saying.
Okay,
No.
that's what I'm saying,
That's
so I
not
wanna
what
be,
we're saying.
well, at that part, so it should be
That's,
someplace
uh,
else. not there.
Alternatives,
Yeah,
we're not talking alternatives.
I understand that,
We're
but
talking
that's what they're
something-
that's what they're speaking to there. So I'm saying, so you can put it
Alternatives, it says
someplace else.
alternatives, it should be sewer commissioners are involved in that.
Absolutely, all the,
and
no,
it's
that's not what I'm
and
saying.
That's what's gotta be in
The
there.
body that we have, the sewer commission's already agreed upon. Everything in there is what was recommended by this board. It's not my recommendations, it was Malcolm who said he wants this, and everything that I was given to me, I gave to them. Everything we had at our meeting, that's what, because it is, it's the board, that's what's in there. What they're saying is that if there's a specific to the pump trucks or whatever, then the sewer commission, the director can say,
That's different.
that's
Now you're
different,
talking,
absolutely.
now you're talking operational, we're not
That's
talking
right.
operational, we're
That's
talking
right.
about alternatives.
That's all I'm saying. So it has to be added
It's-
for the generalization, yeah,
Stop saying
absolutely.
the semantics with you.
Well,
You know,
you want to change that.
Yeah.
You're changing the
So-
semantics, that's all I'm saying. Nothing,
Changing the intent.
the intent's already there, I believe, because everything that's been there from the beginning came from this board. It didn't come from me, it came from the board. We've been talking about this for a long time. And Malcolm's been a big help, and everything that Malcolm says we've recommended.
So will someone be going to the zoning board meeting next Wednesday to talk about this change?
Well, I'll be at the meeting,
But, I
and Jim
mean-
can bring up that, absolutely, Jim can bring that up, absolutely. I don't see a problem with it, I don't see an issue with it.
And the zoning is a week from,
26th,
yesterday,
26th, yes it is. Yep. So that's, but I'm pleased that this came from their lawyer, and everything that we asked for from our last meeting is in there. I was impressed with that.
Where's the zoning board meeting? Where do they meet?
320.
Selectmen's room.
Right up here?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you should, I think, as long as you, I think you are, if you all sit different parts of the room, but I think you can converse. Because, you guys know the rules better
Yeah, we
than I.
can't, we cannot have a discussion.
Cannot.
No, exactly.
So I think you can go to the meeting.
So I'm saying, I'm not printing 27 pages, I'll
No,
go find
no.
the section I wouldn't want to.
No, it's-
Exactly,
it's
that's
just
what I
take
do,
out
I
what you
pull out the
want.
1 or 2 pages that are pertinent to any of this crap that
So,
comes
I mean,
through.
I was very pleased that it included everything that we asked for.
Absolutely. And remember, in that document, in the beginning, there's some things that talk about sewer or whatever, but it's really
But that
immaterial.
was,
But this is specific
This-
to what we
yeah.
asked for.
okay.
Okay. I also sent you a letter from Miss Ying from the DEP certifying our lab at the plant again. It had all the requirements, and we were within, very,
Was
very
that this
tight.
afternoon?
Yes,
I
it
sent
came
that,
out this
yeah.
afternoon.
It came out this afternoon.
And you were acceptable in all of them.
In all of them. And I gotta tell you, if you look at the numbers, we did a great job. George is just, I can't speak enough about him and his diligence to get it done. So we're certified and permitted again, it's powerful.
Yeah, here it is, 512.
Yeah, they sent it to us and I sent it over. It's kinda neat, it was really neat.
I just can't open it. For
got it.
some reason, it won't open it here.
There's not a lot of power.
When I get home, I'll put them up.
I want to remind you all that the 24th, which is next Monday, maybe Tuesday? 25th will be next Monday, is the grant announcement at Mass Maritime at 10 o'clock in the morning. And you all should go.
Monday, 10 a.m.
Yes, at Mass Maritime. And I believe it's with the cafeterias. We've been there before.
Yeah.
It's got cafeteria, but it's very easy to find,
Did you say 10 a.m.?
10 a.m.
Would you say it's at the cafeteria?
Yeah, the it's called a Beachmore Room. It's called a Beachmore Room, which is by the cafeteria. It's really a nice facility. And there'll be, I believe Congressman Keating will be there. I believe there'll be some state reps there. I believe there will be, I know Mass Maritime President will be speaking. There's a bunch of people, and so it's gonna be a good opportunity to,
Are we supposed to wear flak jackets?
I don't know.
If you get that many
You're
politicians?
getting a lot of politicians there.
Yes.
So we should wear boots.
Rubber.
However you want to handle
Insulated.
it. It's just actually, and the regional director for the EPA is gonna be there, announcing the program. So it's just, it's basically a lot of fluff, and so, and everybody's gonna say how they did a great job. But for us, the grant is substantial. We got everything we asked for. It's like $500,000 to continue on this. I mean, it's a powerful grant. It's one of the biggest allowed, one of the biggest received, so we're pretty excited about that, so. And that's
Again,
just
what's the
continue-
grant for?
To continue the studying of the outfall, to move the pipe
Oh,
from.
okay, thank you.
So I would definitely encourage you guys to attend.
Is there any other, has there been any further or different discussion with the railroad regarding?
Nope, what we're doing now is we're talking to, I believe it's Aldrich, we're talking to a drilling company to find out if we can drill under it. Because I just found this out, the railroad tracks side of it, they go down probably a mile. So I gotta drill under it, so I'm gonna have to go beneath, so we gotta figure that out too. So they just own, because it's anything that would disrupt that track, it's under it too. It's like, are you serious? Absolutely. So no matter what we do, we gotta deal with the
We're
railroad.
complaining about a swimming pool being on top of it.
Absolutely. It's just that because if that railroad moves a fraction, and because the bottom line, that's gonna be a high speed, if you will, a commuter rail. There's gonna be a lot of commuter trains, and they're really super sensitive about us causing any deviation of those tracks.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
I'd stop looking at the railroad and start figuring out what it's gonna cost to run an easement beside.
we are doing that. No, we're doing,
Yeah.
yes, we're looking
Forget the
for,
railroad.
we're looking for easements, we're looking for Onset Avenue, Route 6 and 28, any potential, also that's part of the grant, to look at all the alternatives and put a price to 3 to 4 alternatives, put a price to it.
Yeah, You're not gonna get anything from the railroad.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, they give us everything we want with these conditions. The
Yeah, right,
conditions are,
but just like, no.
And we're gonna have an issue with 6 and 28, since it's all gonna be rebuilt, there could be a limit as to when you can disturb the,
What?
what? 6 and 28. is going to be
Yeah, but
reconstructed.
we're not gonna be doing anything with 6 and 28, I don't.
Well, that's just an
Well, I
option,
just-
it's an
I
op,
just
it's an
heard an
option to get to the
option.
Cape Cod Canal, we're looking at all our options. And one will be down 6 and 28, because that takes us into Buzzards Bay. We're gonna look at Onset Avenue, that takes us into Buzzards Bay. And then every point in between that we may want a directional drill from, so all the options have to be looked at. And directional drill from the plant all the way to Mass Maritime.
Take it out to Silas Point and do it underground,
We could do
underwater.
that. We could
Silas
do that.
Point,
Absolutely,
Silas
it's
Point
right
is the
there.
closest one.
It's all the options, we gotta look at everything, we gotta look at every possible alternative and the costs of those
Just lay it on
alternatives.
the bottom of the Onset Bay.
We're still doing the testing of the waters, the Cape Cod Canal, we've been doing that, every month we go out there, we test the water at 6 points, we're still doing that, so it's moving forward, so just be at the grant, I really
Can't you
do.
make
So-
fish?
No, they won't let me fish, I talked to Derek, I said, can I, no, I don't bring a fishing pole, I don't think the public would probably take too kind to me up there fishing.
Why not?
But anyways, we're doing a good job getting this done. It's really exciting stuff. Mass Maritime's been a big help. So I think that all this will be bought out at that grant ceremony. They're gonna
Mass
make a big
Maritime
deal
is-
out of it.
Has gotta really want this in the first place. Now, what about that unit that they're putting in Buzzards Bay? That's only to handle their,
Downtown,
that, is that to
100,000
handle,
gallon?
is that to handle downtown, or is that to handle the increase that they expect to have for downtown?
downtown, they're projecting 330,000 gallons per day they need for downtown.
In addition to what they already have?
200,000 from us, 100,000 from that plant.
Okay, so
That's
that,
the
so
33, so
that
they
plant
can-
is gonna be 100,000 gallon capacity.
So they couldn't take on Mass Maritime.
They really wanted 200,000, but because of the proximity to the Buttermilk Bay and the potential pollution, they're gonna spend a lot of money to run that plant. They're gonna spend a lot of money to sample the waters to make sure it's not affected by
Where is the
Buttermilk
plant
Bay.
actually gonna be?
Queen Sewell, next to the Mass, if you go down the bypass where the armory is,
Yep.
you'll see them breaking ground. It's right there.
Oh,
You'll see
they're
that.
clearing all
Way
that,
up there?
That's
they're
what's
clearing
going-
that land, so that's what's going in there.
So it's gonna dump in a Buttermilk Bay?
Well, it's, in theory, going to the Cape Cod Canal.
Hold on.
And so what the state is making do is put wells to verify all this. They're saying, oh, no, it's gonna go to the Cape Cod Canal, it's gonna go into the ground and leach to the Cape Cod Canal, that's what they're
Sure it
saying.
is. The
So the
South will rise
state's-
again.
So
Right.
the state is saying to them, yeah, okay, that's all well, but you're gonna put 1 or 2 wells. And you're gonna maintain them, you're gonna take samples, you're gonna spend the money.
We're dumping in the into Buzzards Bay then, I mean,
Yeah, we're going to the
we're
canal.
not dumping in the Agawam River.
Going to the canal, that just makes it, so anyways, it's,
It's a little longer to get to the canal.
but so that's what they're doing, so.
It's just as
And by the
logical.
time they test the water in the wells, it'll be too late.
so- But please, please, if you can, go to the ground, the,
But
award
Monday,
ceremony.
Are they building this? They've already got approval on their building?
Yeah, they broke ground.
I thought they had already, I thought they already,
I was gonna say, why are they removing all those trees?
Yeah, they
And
broke
that
ground.
explains it.
They broke ground. I think the misinformation, it's gonna cost them a ton of money to run that
yeah, I
facility.
thought it was gonna cost them a ton of money just to put it in, but now this, if I remember the discussion at some point, I don't know if it was factual or not. This is kind of a temporary plant based on the potential for us to get approvals for increase. And then they would disband, do away with that.
It's a modular plant,
That's.
It's
the-
a what?
that's-
modular plant.
Module.
So
that-
it
so
could
that
be
can be
disassembled.
Dismantled, yes.
Yeah.
It'll
We
work-
could take it up to West Wareham?
Well, if we bought it from
Shangri-La.
them, you could buy it
They
from
bring,
them.
what would they do, bring it across the bridge?
Let's talk about Shangri-La for one quick second. Makepeace built a treatment plant up at that neck of the woods. You know, any of you been
Yep.
lately up Wareham Road?
Yeah,
Where their huge development is, it's called River Run?
whatever it, yeah.
It's huge, and they got
Yeah.
YMCA there.
Yeah.
They got a
Yeah,
treatment
yeah.
plant. The state of Massachusetts has said that they need to offset approximately 40,000 gallons per day of nitrogen or flow. We have an opportunity to grab that. I want to pursue it. I've already talked to them 2 or 3 times.
Can you, wait a minute, back up a second, can you explain that in single syllable words so you and I could understand?
Push
That's
it
what
forward,
they
like
They
to
have,
those
they have a
gallons.
plant up there now and it's
Yes.
working,
Yes,
okay? And where do they discharge their water to?
water to the groundwater. So it's a groundwater discharge.
Okay, okay.
So,
So all those homes up there are using it? It's
That's right,
only
the tie
only
into the sewer.
and only in the homes in that development?
So
Okay.
the Department of Environmental Protection stated that they've got to do a nitrogen offset. And one of the ways to offset that nitrogen is to take 30,000 gallons of effluent from Wareham or Plymouth.
Right down the street from
I
Shangri-La,
would like to
down
be
that
part of
dirt road.
Shangri-La.
You say
30,000 gallons per day.
they would be sending it to us,
No, we'd be sending to them.
we'd be sending it to them.
Now, they have to pay for treatment, I don't know what those numbers are gonna be, but we don't have to build a facility. We just ship it to them, they treat it, they discharge it, and we figure out, we do an IMA, we figure out what they want for money.
Unless they're planning to put more homes up there.
Part of the agreement is to do this, and I wanna jump on it before Plymouth jumps on it. I wanna lock them up, I sat and talked with Mr. Kane, I've talked to the DEP,
Yeah.
it's there, but we gotta act upon it. I wanna do something
What-
official,
What are you gonna send them?
send them sewer, I want a sewer, parts of
So what
Shangri-La.
area could we send that direction?
Either Shangri-La,
Shangri-La would be great.
alongside of Shangri-La,
Oh,
around the
White Island?
White Island Pond, there's areas, so we can look at the areas what's the best bang for our buck for 30,000 gallons.
So what you're saying is that would technically increase our plant capacity by 30,000 gallons.
It's not gonna increase anything, it's gonna get
Is
that part
Shangri-La
of town.
sewered?
No,
no, no.
it gets that bad area sewered because it's like
Okay.
phosphates
That
that
area is
comes down to
really
the
neat.
pond. It
So
really needs
theoretically,
something.
we could take
Yeah, it's 601,
the
but-
homes that are along,
The water.
no, not Pilgrim, but the other,
You know, you got Wareham Road or Plymouth Road,
yeah.
both sides, if you, to the extreme is Shangri-La and everything to the right, and then you got White Island Pond.
Yeah.
We could start taking Wareham side of White Island Pond and come down behind it and get 30,000 gallons per
I'm
day
just
worth
trying to
of
think
homes.
where is the densest homes, and it's off
That's
of
what we're trying to,
Pilgrim,
that's
yeah.
what we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
And it's probably gonna be up, the most density, sewer those, and then we're gonna use a pump it to
Okay,
Makepeace and be
what
done
do
with
we
it.
need to do to get involved in this, to get on the board?
I think we should make it official that we wanna pursue it.
All
I
right.
think if the board says we wanna pursue it, then I'll set up a meeting with Mr. Kane,
I have a
and
motion
we'll
to
make
that
an
effect.
official pitch to them and say we wanna start looking at this.
So moved. So
So-
moved,
so-
Sandra.
Yeah.
So
Do I have a second to
we'll
that?
have to get it
Wait.
engineered?
Yeah, it's like if we did it ourselves, it's just that we're not gonna build a plant, we're just gonna send it someplace, it's already built.
So we'd get the betterment, we'd get the EDU,
Everything's to do with us, we get the
Yep.
betterment, we pay for it, because we got obligations here
build it,
too. So,
but we'd have to build,
the,
we'd have to
the
build.
lines to the
Pump
homes,
stations.
and then it would be a betterment to do all that. Yes, we'd better, but it wouldn't be a betterment for a big plant, it would be a lesser a betterment. There's a lot of technology that's a little cheaper, maybe E1 pumps or
Yeah,
grinder pumps or
satellite
whatever,
plants.
and it just
That's
sends
a
it to
great
their
idea.
plant.
Do I have a motion?
So we're
Yeah,
both,
get us involved.
yes.
I make a motion that we continue discussions with
Makepeace.
Makepeace on,
Passing them product.
Sewer distribution.
Go ahead, say it.
Go ahead,
Sending them
go
what?
ahead, Donna. Jump right in there, Donna. Jump right in.
so moved. That's it. I'm not going any further.
That's too much.
You don't wanna say shit.
Don't you think I've used enough
All right, do I have a second for Donna's,
Second.
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
400.
And that's all I have on my report
So-
this evening.
I would hope so.
Well,
It was a long report.
I've got, yeah,
Well, that's because you kept interrupting.
Yeah, exactly.
Me,
Me.
this one over here.
Can we add something at on the next agenda? I would love to have a list of unconnected homes that haven't been homes. We have a list that's a year old. Can we get an updated list of homes that have not
You already,
connected to some?
you already asked that last.
I know, but I
meeting.
did, it's not in the packet.
Oh,
I just want
We were supposed to-
formally add it to
Yes.
the
we're
agenda.
supposed to do that?
yes.
Yeah.
Do you mean to the gender on all
Add
one or
it.
just one?
I want it on the agenda to talk about how do we connect the homes that are not connected, and I
Well, we
want an
want a list.
updated report of the count in addresses, because mine's a year old, and what you have is a year old, so.
Yep.
So it'll be less, but yes, it'll be.
Yeah,
pretty
but
much
I
the
would love to
same
have
stuff.
another, because we talked about how do we make it happen, and if it's on the agenda, then we can formally talk about how do we
Okay,
connect.
so put it on the agenda,
Okay.
and then we'll get you an updated list. Okay,
Okay, that's it, Guy, right?
yes.
Steve, okay,
I don't really want to talk about some
No, not,
policy
well,
tonight.
We don't have
that was
anything
it. The sump pump discussion
Yeah,
is, we're postponing this till the next meeting because there are some additions to go into our
okay.
thing that haven't come forward.
All
Matt was
right.
gonna work on it.
So we
and
should
he
have
got
an
tied up,
updated
so we will
report
have an
for-
update for the next meeting. Okay? New business.
Can I ask just one question under new business?
Yes, sir.
Guy, could you get from Ty and Bond the formula that they used to come up with that figure they came up with?
I asked, actually, I talked to Mike Tuesday. He said he wasn't done yet, but I said, so I would definitely ask him
Like
again.
in a year.
3.
Yeah, well,
They've been working on it since I've been on the board.
Yep,
Mhm.
who else would be?
Well, remember, they switched gears from water strictly to EDU. Water's a bad issue.
Maybe.
Well, at this time, it may not come, but they, to do it for
If we-
water and not
If we
get
were to
water.
use water now, with water rates just doubled,
So, and one of the concerns the water district have, why they didn't want to give it to us, because their rates are gonna go higher, doubled if you will, and then our rates are gonna go up, and they didn't want to be privy to that, which is very selfish, but that was one of their reasons, and they didn't want to upset the apple cart with the businesses.
well, I'd still like to
Water's already
see
doubled
Ty and
the rates.
Bond's formula.
Right now.
So, because, yeah, so you want the formula used for the last water rate?
Well,
The number
no,
they got.
for how they came up with that
The number you showed us.
Yes, that was partial water, partial EDU, so they changed all EDU, I can get you that.
When you,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so-
Well,
So you'll have that,
you
you'll
shared,
have some of that,
and we,
you'll have that
I
information.
guess
for
your
the
question
next
is
meeting.
how do they
So-
come up with it?
okay, let me just be clear. So you want this list to go public with the numbers?
No, I want,
For what? You want it to
I
meet?
want their
No.
formula,
You want the formula, but not the numbers.
Okay.
The
the
formula.
formula.
how they come up with that figure, that's it?
Okay.
No, the
Just the
formula
formula,
to
that's
come
it.
up
Oh,
with
yeah,
that
yeah,
figure.
yeah.
We're
Excuse
we're
me,
not
I
ready for
agree.
the refigure yet.
You don't want figures. I just wanted to be clear. We don't want figures.
No,
Because
we want
figures
the
are dangerous.
formula.
Okay. Okay. That's, yeah. Okay.
Okay, next meeting dates. October 4th and 18th, 1st and 3rd. November 1st and 15th, it's 1st and 3rd.
October 4th and
18,
18th, November,
1 and 15.
When's town meeting? October what?
I-
23rd or 4th, the 4th Monday.
Okay, I want to tell everybody, next Tuesday is Rebecca's last day. She's purchased a home in Georgia, and she sold hers here, and so she's gone. I don't know what to do yet. I know we're circulating the card. I was thinking of doing lunch at the plant on Tuesday for her. Just want you all to know you're welcome to come. I want to do something. She's,
Whatever you
On
come up with,
Tuesday, yeah.
she's
send us,
been-
send us an email.
Yeah.
she's been a tremendous asset to us.
Well, you don't have to tell me, I think she's been top notch. And that was one of my questions, I'm a little concerned over who's gonna be taking over
We
her.
have nobody, so it's gonna be crazy. So Leader and Lee's gonna continue doing what she's doing. Lee's gonna continue what she's doing, and then we're gonna add to them all the other responsibilities that Rebecca did, which is procurement,
Can we ask
sewer
for
commissioners
Patty's name?
meetings, and
Yeah,
customer
dead
relations, and
serious.
research.
I-
You think he- you think he'd like to
Prevailing
go?
wages and contracts, and it just
Yes.
scares me.
Think about
Yeah.
it.
Scares me.
So do you have a requirement for a new hire?
It might be
Yes,
a better,
we
it might be better
requested
than,
a job
if Plan-
posting.
if Plan A
and the town
fails.
says
Oh,
we
yeah,
won't
well,
post
that's,
it.
In the meantime,
that's a very good.
Yeah.
Nobody.
There's struggle.
So they're gonna struggle. They're gonna struggle.
So we should talk to
And as always, send me the minutes
Throw it
ahead of
open.
time, and I'll review them before they go in the packet.
No.
Donna.
Do it.
Yeah. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I knew you came for a reason.
So the signatures,